Civilian Hokage, unstoppable from the start with 8 gates. Hey, fanfic family. So glad to see you here again to continue this incredible adventure. As always, kindly remember, this story is 100% fiction, so don't go looking for dimensional portals in your closet. All rights to this fantastic novel belong to the original author. We're just your humble narrators of epic tales. Are you enjoying the fanfic? Show it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and dropping us a like. And if you're impatient for more exclusive content, our Patreon is your happy place. Chapter 326 Tsunade, Suzumiya Musashi, you're being a little too extreme. Early the next morning. Hokage's office. Tsunade, annoyed at having to get up early for work, arrived at the door and unexpectedly found Suzumiya Musashi, who usually arrived early, waiting for her. Tsunade, wah. Tsunade sat in the Hokage's chair, leaned forward, rested her arms on the table, crossed her fingers, and looked at Suzumiya Musashi with interest. Tell me, our Captain Musashi, what brings you here so early? Did what I said yesterday work? Are you going to work hard from today on? Suzumiya Musashi looked at her with a mocking expression and had no intention of joking with her. It's about work. Work? Tsunade seemed to have heard something strange. What kind of important work makes you come here so early to wait? If I remember correctly, I usually wait for you in the office. This seems to be the first time you've waited for me. I don't have time for jokes. Suzumiya Musashi looked somewhat serious and placed a document in front of Tsunade. Sign it, Tsunade. If I'm not mistaken, it seems she's the Hokage? Are you ordering me around? No, Suzumiya Musashi said. Tsunade, I'm asking for your consent. What? Seeing that Suzumiya Musashi wasn't joking, Tsunade looked at the document with some doubt. The next instant, her expression froze. She reached out, picked it up, examined it carefully, making sure she wasn't blinded by its glare, and suddenly looked up. You still say you're not joking? Suzumiya Musashi frowned slightly. Do I look like I'm joking? No. Tsunade hesitated and looked again at the documents in her hand. The title was extremely eye-catching. Anbu Personnel Adjustment Plan, Application for the Recruitment and Integration of Root Ninja, to improve Konoha's preparedness for emergencies and strengthen its emergency response capabilities within the Empire. In accordance with the instructions of the first Hokage Senju Hashirama, the mission of the second Hokage Senju Tobirama in Konoha, combined with the actual operation of the Anbu organization, we have developed inferences from an example. We have formulated an adjustment plan for Anbu personnel. Amidst a pile of texts that confused and disgusted her, Tsunade only saw a few actions. First, strengthen the Hokage's leadership, integrate Anbu's power, and centralize it. Second, promote immediate implementation, conduct a thorough investigation of root personnel, establish files and records, and eliminate the curse. For those who refuse to implement coercive measures. Third, launch a wide propaganda campaign, continuously correct, and continue the work of building the will of fire. The 3 points can be summarized in a single sentence. Go to Tuanzang. At the end of the document, behind the applicant, the 4 words Suzumiya Musashi were written with a sharp, murderous aura. Tsunade raised her head again and asked, Are you serious? What else? Suzumiya Musashi's gaze was cold. I only came here to ask your opinion, agree or disagree. No. Tsunade felt her head, already blurry from the early morning, begin to spin. Everything was a mess. You're going a bit too far. If we say that he found Ganzo some time ago and proposed the integration and recruitment of the Anbu on behalf of the Hokage, it could hardly be considered a discussion. Acknowledge it with enthusiasm, move it with reason. If the negotiation fails, we can continue the discussion. Suzumiya Musashi's current request is simply reckless. Without saying a word, he just starts. If you agree, we'll recruit you. If you don't agree, we'll defeat you. What he signed wasn't a request, but a declaration of war. I'm going to screw you over. For a moment, Tsunade lacked the resolve and courage to sign. The night before, he had still been calm and told himself not to worry and to slowly think of a solution. It's only been one night. Yes, I found a solution. What the hell is this method? Just put the armor on me and let me fight that old man. Musashi, did something happen to you last night, with a teapot? Tsunade stood up, walked over, took the teapot, and poured Suzumiya Musashi hot tea. Tell me what happened slowly. Suzumiya Musashi remained impassive. I don't drink tea. Answer me, do you agree or disagree? No. Tsunade felt a tingle on her head. This is too sudden. The transfer of power isn't something so impulsive. Listen to me, it's not easy to recruit the roots. There are many issues at stake. Danzo is an elder who has served the village since the reign of the second great-grandfather. If I want to take action against him, it's not as simple as signing a petition. The power of the roots is no less than that of the Anbu. If they really start fighting, inevitably it will cause unrest in the village. Tsunade looked at Suzumiya Musashi seriously. We cannot afford this consequence, Suzumiya Musashi said. Tsunade, you overthink things. Tsunade wasn't there when Suzumiya Musashi called her name, and she replied, because I am the Hokage. These are things I must consider. Danzo's resistance, you don't need to think about that. Just sign this request, and the rest I'll leave to me. Tsunade's face looked a little ugly at not being able to persuade the other party. Suzumiya Musashi, this is not the time to act impulsively. I know your strength has improved a lot, but some things can't be resolved as easily as a few punches and kicks. Your methods are very powerful, but do you think old Danzo has no tricks up his sleeve? A genius who has lived from the second generation to the present day is not someone to be underestimated. Even I don't know how many teachers there are at the root. Chapter 327 Anbu gathers. So what? Suzumiya Musashi asked aloud. Are we just going to leave it like this? Are we going to let Root continue recruiting talent from the ninja clan and the civilian population to grow stronger? Are you going to let Danzo continue hiding in the shadows, waiting for the opportunity to bite you like a venomous snake? The village is still relatively quiet now. You have time to think calmly. Let's discuss it calmly. But when the day comes that foreign enemies invade, will you have the strength to defend yourself against those who pursue you? Are you being too pessimistic? After all, the Root ninja are also members of the village. Danzo, with that, Tsunade couldn't continue. Having lived through wars, and as a princess of the Senju clan, she knew a great deal about Danzo. Given the other's cruelty, however ugly the matter, he could do it. You know this too, don't you? Suzumiya Musashi said. Yes, the Root ninja are also Konoha ninja, but if that day comes, even if they remember they are Konoha ninja, the horrible cursed seal on their tongues won't. Loyalty to the Hokage or loyalty to life. Do you want to see it with your own eyes? Tsunade's expression was uncertain. She didn't need to see something like that with her own eyes. If you think with your butt, you'll know the outcome. But then, she shook her head. You're wrong, what you said is wrong. I still say the same thing. The situation you described is too extreme. Danzo wouldn't be so reckless as to ignore the overall situation. Extreme, Suzumiya Musashi sneered. Tsunade, you have to understand, you're the Kage of a village, not the headmaster of a ninja school. Extreme, the village of Iwagakure is mobilizing 10,000 people to kill the third Hokage. Is that extreme? To protect his own rights, Hanzo of the Salamander killed the child prodigy of the village hidden in the rain. Is that extreme? The Daimyoji of the Land of Lightning sacrificed thousands of talented children for a few shadow-level physical warriors. Musashi dodged the question. These don't matter. What matters is whether what I said is correct or not. Tsunade, you're too weak to be a Hokage. This is the ninja world. You should know very well how much slaughter there is, how much hatred there is, and how much hidden patience waits for the opportunity to strike. Tsunade ultimately didn't refute. The cruel truth that Suzumiya Musashi revealed was the reason she chose to leave the village and leave the disputes in the ninja world. This ninja world has become filthy. And Danzo, wherever he is, can never be considered clean. She thought she saw the conflict erupting again in the ninja world. Blood was everywhere, and murders were happening every second. A venomous, hidden, and ferocious serpent lurked in the darkness of Konoha, casting a fierce glance behind her. So, Tsunade, Suzumiya Musashi's voice startled her awake. I'll ask you this, are you going to approve my request and resolve this root problem before the ninja world descends into chaos, or are you going to leave it alone? Give me an answer. Tsunade sat in the Hokage position. Her fingers were tightly interlaced, and the blue veins were visible. Time dragged, as if each second were an eternity. Finally, after a while, Musashi, his gaze unwavering, said, You're sure you have the ability to handle yourself, Danzo, aren't you? Suzumiya Musashi was about to reply, but Tsunade only offered a bitter smile. Forget it, just pretend I didn't ask. She placed the heavy request she was holding on the table, picked up a pen, and quickly wrote her name. Leave it with Suzumiya Musashi, take it and show it to whoever needs it. If necessary, you can bring someone. I'll be waiting here. Remember, don't involve too many people. Suzumiya Musashi took it without hesitation. They both understood. The document signed by Tsunade wasn't for Danzo to see, nor could it even be made public, but rather for the Anbu team members to see. Don't even think you can force the other side to relinquish power with just a document. Since you've decided to act, abandon all illusions. As Hokage, Tsunade can't appear during such a major change and can only leave when everything is over. If Suzumiya Musashi wins, it means the Hokage will integrate and incorporate the power of Root. If he loses, it will be due to the Dark Team's failed attempt of their own volition. Therefore, Suzumiya Musashi must secretly gather forces, choose the right moment, and launch a lightning attack. There was no discussion or notification, just an all-out internal war from the very beginning. As Suzumiya Musashi was about to leave, Tsunade suddenly called after him. Suzumiya Musashi frowned and looked back, thinking the other party might have changed their mind. However, Tsunade simply chuckled and said, "If you fail, remember to hold on a little longer, don't stop me from saving you in time, tisk." Suzumiya Musashi laughed, turned around, and left, holding up the consent request in his hand. Remain in the office quietly and prepare to take charge of the new team, respected Hokage-sama, Anbu. The team office. The Anbu personnel on duty came and went, wearing smiles unseen in years past. Since Suzumiya Musashi's promotion to Anbu captain, the atmosphere within the Anbu had shifted dramatically. If I had to describe it in words, I'd say sunshine and relaxation. As long as they reacted quickly, the Anbu could handle anything. Playing cards, showing off, cooking, sharing resources. If it weren't for the Anbu uniforms they wore, others would probably find it hard to believe these were Konoha's Anbu. Is this still the Anbu I know? Hinata Uchi, reclining on the couch, watched the relaxed Anbu members. Among them were even colleagues who had previously detested each other, now chatting while embracing. She sighed and shook her head. Oh, Musashi can actually become a squad leader. What sin has the Hokage committed? Aren't you afraid Musashi will find out you said those things behind his back and make things difficult for you? Yuzuki Yugeo glanced at him sideways. What a joke. Hinata Uchi turned around and got into a more comfortable position. What's the relationship between Musashi and me? I'd say the same thing to his face. Get out of my way. You're blocking my reading. As he said this, he placed a hardbound copy of Ninja Moderator in front of him and began to admire it seriously. Tisk, Mao Yuzian snapped. I'm just pretending. Who are you trying to fool with a cover story? Everyone in the Anbu knows you hunch over your books every day. Bah! Hinata Uchi slammed the book shut, blushed, hunched over, and said, how can you defame someone's innocence out of thin air? Mao Yuzian chuckled. Just as I was about to say something polite, the door suddenly burst open. Suzumiya Musashi entered the room with a murderous glare, scanning everyone. His tone colder than ever. Assemble everyone silently in 1 minute. Get ready. Chapter 328, we incorporate the roots and the action begins. People arrived one by one and, upon arrival, formed orderly and solemn lines. The atmosphere was somber and depressing. Everyone stared at Suzumiya Musashi, who stood before them, with puzzled eyes, awaiting the squad leader's instructions. His direct address made everyone gasp. Secret order from the Hokage, sweep the root base and recruit all root personnel? The space was so depressing you could hear a pin drop. I don't know how long it took for everyone to hear the first rapid breathing, as if they were about to drown, and then the gasps became continuous. Squad leader, is it true? Someone asked in surprise. Suzumiya Musashi immediately pulled out the application form signed by Tsunade. Everyone, move along. The thin paper felt incredibly heavy as it was passed from hand to hand among the Anbu personnel. Everyone who saw its contents opened their eyes with extremely solemn expressions. Suzumiya Musashi allowed them to examine the documents carefully. They exchanged glances, and after a while, he asked, does anyone have any questions, or who wants to retire? Everyone, Anbu ninjas are not naive children. In the current situation, there is no choice between retiring or not. It is a choice between life and death. This kind of situation, which can shake the village and even affect the structure of the ninja world if not handled properly, cannot be resolved simply. They looked fearfully at Suzumiya Musashi, who stood majestically before them, and inwardly felt a secret awe. Once he acted ruthlessly. If I say I quit, will I ever see the afternoon sun again? But they wrongly blamed Suzumiya Musashi. As for the Anbu before him, he wouldn't kill them just because someone decided to quit. Suzumiya Musashi said, I'll say it again, Those who don't want to participate may withdraw before the action begins. As long as you keep your eyes on me, there will be no problem. However, if anyone dares to break their word during the mission, don't blame me for being ruthless." After these words, several team members exchanged glances. After a while, no one said they wanted to quit. Some weren't veterans of the 6th Anbu team and didn't know Suzumiya Musashi well enough, so they could only judge based on their work experience. Such actions will never be as comforting and relaxing as they say. Join or die? Suzumiya Musashi also guessed they would have those thoughts. But it doesn't matter. Since no one has given up, let's all act. Captain Hinata Yuchi was the first to speak, drawing everyone's attention. Kudo, being stared at by everyone as if she were a fool, Hinata Yuchi was a little flustered. She said weakly, "No. Why are you looking at me like that? I want to ask, when do we act?" Suzumiya Musashi spoke in a cold voice. "Await my order." "Wait? Until when?" Hinata Yuchi was still a little confused, but she knew it wasn't the time to keep asking questions. Time passed slowly. Inside the house, the atmosphere became increasingly depressing. Beads of sweat ran down people's foreheads as they repeatedly checked their ninja tool bags and various emergency supplies. This was true even after checking them several times. The suffocating depression in the air. Knock, knock. The sudden knock on the door was like a clap of thunder. The Anbu ninjas suddenly became nervous, and some even pulled out the detonating tags they had prepared long ago. "Ready to act?" Suzumiya Musashi's expression remained unchanged, and he silently opened the barrier. Then, Mao Yu's Ayame, dressed in tight-fitting clothing, entered. "Captain Musashi," confirmed, "Danzo is at route base." "Who?" After a sigh, Suzumiya Musashi finally spoke. "Assign tasks. Squad 6, keep watch, oversee the battle. Squad, watch the 4 directions of route, southeast, northwest, and intercept anyone who escapes. Others are responsible for gathering route personnel. Even if we try our best, with so many people en route, how can we gather them?" Seeing Suzumiya Musashi's cold gaze, the man's eyes instantly widened, and the hair on his neck stood on end. "Captain, what I mean is, can we add more personnel? Tell the Hokage to send more people. Otherwise, with only 20 of us, it would be easy for them to annihilate us." Suzumiya Musashi said, "There's no one else, just us, according to the plan." "Yes, Captain." The ninja wiped the cold sweat from the corners of his eyes and withdrew. "I couldn't help but groan inwardly. This time, it really cost me my life. I knew the boss's dinner wasn't that delicious. I don't know if I still have the chance to go home and hug my wife tonight. Everyone, follow me and let the action begin. Oh my god. Oh my god. It's exciting. This is so exciting." Konoha was as calm and peaceful as ever, except for the ninjas running at full speed across the rooftops and through the shadows, which seemed a little out of place in this peaceful atmosphere. Hinata Yuchi kept jumping around behind Yamato, complaining non-stop. Or maybe it's because they're too nervous and use conversation to relieve stress. "Zion, when did you find out? How cruel. If you had told me earlier." Are you nervous beforehand?" Mao Yu's Ayame, beside him, mocked mercilessly. "Would I get nervous if you farted?" "I'm not nervous at all," Hinata Yuchi kept insisting. "I'm the organ. Did the captain avoid you earlier? How come you're the first to know the news today?" What's the point of hiding from me? I'm good at stalking and gathering information, but if he doesn't come to me, how is he going to do it?" Yeah, you're the best. You and the captain are amazing." Hinata Yuchi was talking like a machine gun, his speaking speed much faster than before. Death. Isn't the captain usually inattentive to his duties? What happened today?" "He's going crazy, making a huge fuss as soon as the fight started. It's over. It'll probably be difficult to get home safe and sound today. I've hated them for a long time. I have to screw him over hard today." Mao Yu's Ayame snorted coldly. "You'd better think about holding out for a while. Don't be the first to die. I don't think we'll have time to save you." "What a joke. Do you think my eyes are useless? Today I'll show you what Hinata Yuchi, can do." "Tisk." Mao Yu's Ayame sneered and stopped talking to the other party. Staring at the base of the route getting closer, the flames of battle slowly burned in his eyes. Chapter 329 The War Begins. Hinata Yuchi was right. They had long been dissatisfied with the route. Obviously, according to the rules, the route was just one class of Anbu, and their status was the same. But these people on the other side were Elder Danzo's foot soldiers. The elite among the elite. The fire of war in Mao Yuxian's eyes intensified more and more. I'm going to beat you today. Root base. Danzo wore bandages and a cloth robe, sitting on his throne. Under the already dim light, the place where he was even darker. Danzo liked this kind of environment. Here, he felt at home. Lurking in the darkness, he silently contributed to the village with his life and his will. The root was deeply rooted in the village, and a constant supply of new nutrients allowed it to continue growing. This was what he had been doing for decades. Of course, if it were possible, he would prefer to sit in the Hokage building, in the girl's seat. Wearing a conical hat, he accepted the praise and adoration of the entire village. Thinking of the emotion, Danzo frowned. But soon, this thought was suppressed by his will. Now was not the time for fantasies. He still had much to do. There were still many problems and people to deal with. Danzo, Tsunade, Jiraiya. A group of people who seemed strong, but all had flaws. The current stability was just an illusion. People's hearts were treacherous, and there were always conflicts in the ninja world. The village was always in danger. If not, it created danger. One day, people would realize that what the village needed wasn't a young Hokage, but him, Danzo. The sixth generation of Konoha who could truly lead Konoha to greatness, Danzo Shimura. He was the hope of the entire village. Danzo gripped the wooden staff in his hand, his heart overflowing with joy. Sir, the respectful address disturbed Danzo's thoughts. Upon seeing who was approaching, he recognized his personal assistant, Shan's Hongfeng. Shan's Hongfeng said in a grave voice, "How's it going?" "It's already taken care of," Shan's Hongfeng said respectfully. "I sent someone to contact Uchiha a second time and suggested she join Root." "Okay," Shan's Hongfeng continued, "but sir, the people below reported that the situation is a little different." Danzo frowned slightly and looked at Shan's Hongfeng with dissatisfaction. "What happened?" Shan's Hongfeng said, "I specifically ordered my subordinates to speak in a firmer tone when making suggestions. In other words, it wasn't a suggestion at all, but an order given beforehand." But Uchiha's reaction was very different from last time. "When I went the first time, the girl was obviously a little overwhelmed, and her mood fluctuated a lot, but the person who reported it said that Uchiha's reaction this time was very calm." Danzo, how boring is that? Shan's Hongfeng thought for a moment, recalling the descriptions of his men and carrying them out exactly as they had been given to Danzo. "Ah, I understand." There was a flash of anger in Danzo's eyes. "Another girl who doesn't know how to live or die?" Shan's Hongfeng asked. "My lord, what do we do now? Do you need me to send someone back?" he asked in a more stern tone. "Or, should I go myself?" "No need," Danzo said coldly. "I went twice, it was enough. If that idiot Suzumiya Musashi weren't so stupid, he'd understand what I mean." Danzo had a sneer of contempt in his eyes, as if he had everything under control. "He knows what to do." Shan's Hongfeng clenched his fists and said, "My lord, I'm so brave." Boom, the earth shook. The vibration and roar reverberated through the subterranean layers, reaching the ears of Danzo and Yamanaka Feng, and even causing Yamanaka Feng's compliments to abruptly cease. At the same time, familiar chakra fluctuations, like a wave, swept through the entire Embu base. Shan's Hongfeng was startled and looked up. Danzo suddenly stood up, sensing the chakra fluctuations enveloping the entire base, his heart filled with surprise and anger. "Who is it?" At that moment, a familiar and undisguised voice boomed through the base. "Everyone. No one escape. Sixth Squad, pay attention to the search and observation." Upon hearing this familiar voice, Danzo abruptly stopped the wooden staff in his hand and shouted furiously, word by word, suddenly. "Maya. Take it." Zang. Danzo was furious. Furious. So furious. He never imagined that just a second ago he had been so smugly expressing his own judgment in front of his subordinates. The next instant, the opponent arrived at his root base. Yes. What he said was correct. Suzumiya Musashi knew what to do and acted swiftly. "But what did you get the nerve to bring people to block my root base?" Danzo felt rage burning in his chest. Immediately afterward, Suzumiya Musashi's powerful voice echoed again in the Anbu base. "Danzo, by order of our superiors, we are integrating the Anbu and accepting members from Root. Come out quickly." Crack, the staff shattered under the uncontrollable force. Danzo didn't even notice the pain in his palm hands and hand, her eyes burned with anger. Now she has only one feeling, she wants Suzumiya Musashi to die. "My lord," he suddenly darted into the sky above the base. Seeing this, Shan's Hongfang was startled. "My lord, you must do it yourself." Shan's Hongfang didn't dare hesitate and followed closely behind. The sound of the wind passed by my ears. Danzo is rapidly advancing toward the Anbu base. But right after he moved, roars and thumps began to spread above his head. Just from the aftershocks, it wasn't hard to guess that a fierce battle had already begun above the base. This guy, Danzo, was furious. He hadn't expected Suzumiya Musashi to respond like this. He hadn't expected the other's response to be so swift. Not only did he arrive quickly, but he also began to act without hesitation after only a few words. He hadn't even had time to peer. Fortunately, the depth of the base was limited. After a while, Danzo arrived in front of the base's secret gate. At that moment, Danzo's figure suddenly stopped. He stopped in front of the gate. Boom boom boom. From among the roots, a steady roar could be heard. More than a dozen Anbu ninjas were scattered throughout the base. They stood on the square roof, holding ninja tools in their hands, in fighting stances, but they appeared paralyzed and motionless. Everyone was stunned, watching the scene in disbelief. Chapter 330, Barrier, Group Fight. The base, far from the village center, experienced an unprecedented impact. Walls were crumbling, and dust was everywhere. This was a scene unseen since the base's establishment. Above the base, a scroll floated. Mysterious characters clung to it, densely packed like tadpoles. Along with the chains, it resembled a transparent, colorful umbrella covering the sky above the base. This was an exceptionally large ceiling barrier. Near the scroll, Yamato, Hinata Uchi, and Yuzuki Yugeo rode atop a gigantic black eagle, soaring through the air. Hinata Uchi was responsible for surveillance and observation, assisting his fellow Anbu and Suzumiya Musashi in assessing the enemy situation. Yamato was responsible for protecting the barrier scroll and dealing with any potential anti-aircraft fire. Maoyu Zigao was responsible for responding to emergencies. In short, I can't help you for now. More than a dozen Anbu members were scattered around the periphery of the light curtain, assuming combat stances. But at that moment, they could only do one thing: stare at the flickering after images in the light curtain, mouths agape in surprise. Boom boom boom, they blurred, their heads went blank, and then the whole person began to rise as if weightless. After a moment of vertigo, my head seemed to buzz, and I fell into deep sleep. Oh, boom, swoosh, whoosh, bang, the sound effects kept coming. The Anbu members surrounding the barrier could barely keep up with the leaping figures. Holding ninja tools, their heads spun like gimbals. Admiration. Damn, the captain is amazing. No wonder we committed such a great atrocity with so few of us. I misunderstood. These people are enough to clear the battlefield. Before arriving, he prepared for a brutal battle, even to die in combat against squad leader Suzumiya Musashi. The small group, after the barrier enveloped the base, became so scattered that communication was impossible. At that moment, his comrades seemed to have a telepathic connection. They turned, and their gazes met his. He was thrown to the ground. He took a deep breath, trying to calm his heart, which was pounding from the intense heat. However, after becoming familiar with it, he sensed something was wrong. In the ruined base, a rough count showed there were only 20 or 30 people. Where were the others? And where was this Danzo guy? A question crossed Suzumiya Musashi's mind, and the next instant, Hinata Uchi, who was patrolling and watching the sky, suddenly shouted a reminder: "Watch out! 5 people underground." Musashi, the pentagonal circle formed a ring that enveloped Suzumiya Musashi. Fire style, Great Flame; Earth Escape, Earth Glue; Water style, Water Tornado; Thunder Escape. In the distance, the Anbu members watched the 5 figures that suddenly appeared. Although they knew that Suzumiya Musashi was very powerful, they couldn't help but be astonished. Watch out, however, their reminder had no effect on the root ninja's swift action. As the shouts were launched, the chakra fluctuations had already begun. Flames blazed, water flowed, thunder shut out. The 5 ninjas had faces of cruelty and determination. As members of Root, the ninjas, the elite Konoha ninja, after their comrades appeared one by one, but the vibrations continued, they realized that a difficult and powerful enemy had emerged. Faced with this situation, they didn't need to think much. As their rich experience had already provided them with a solution: group combat plus stealth attack. By familiarizing themselves with the terrain, several people could launch attacks at once. No matter how advanced your skills, as long as the enemy isn't too powerful, It's impossible to ignore the simultaneous attacks of several ninjas. There's nothing wrong with this approach. But the person they encountered was Suzumiya Musashi. Almost at the same time that the 5 ninjas appeared and formed hand seals, Suzumiya Musashi moved. The molten ground didn't have time to take effect, and the leaping wind blades couldn't reach his feet. The lightning flashed with a blinding light and landed on his body with such a gentle force that it felt more like a tickle. It wasn't until the thunderclap erupted that the fabric had turned to charcoal, revealing the thunder within, which was as light and transparent as water and enveloped his body. Having become immune to lightning-release ninjutsu, the lightning extended upward, completely enveloping Suzumiya Musashi's body, and then, it pierced through the flames. Boom! Under the terrifying speed of Suzumiya Musashi, the broken fire escape emitted a dull thud like an explosion. The next second, it left a trail of film and appeared before a root ninja. Its 5 open fingers continued to grow larger before the opponent's eyes. No, the ninja's face twisted in fear. What did he see? He saw a man who moved as fast as lightning, his body covered in thunder and his short hair flapping in the wind. He considered the powerful ninjutsu they were so proud of to be insignificant, and he lunged at him with a demonic aura and opened his palms. The ninja suddenly felt a greater illumination in his mind. I'm probably going to die. The worst-case scenario has occurred. The enemy is incredibly powerful. Speed and attack power that would put even a Jonin to shame, and a defense capable of withstanding large-scale ninjutsu. Wait, it seems something's wrong with the ninjutsu right now. In this extreme state, the root ninja's mind became extremely clear, and a series of pieces of information flashed through his mind like lightning. Error. The enemy was incredibly powerful, but not as much as he had imagined. The opponent had broken through using 5 ninjutsu techniques, but these 5 techniques seemed much less powerful than before. Every detail flashed through his mind. Ground escape, fire escape, wind escape. Yes, the power of the ninjutsu has been significantly reduced. The next second, he didn't even have time to shake off his distorted and irrelevant expression. He stared at the barrier and the scroll above his head and suddenly roared, "Destroy the scroll first!" Bang! A large hand brought a powerful wind that enveloped him in the face. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 331, Fighting at the Root. Am I going to die? His facial features twisted and distorted from the interaction of forces. His entire body began to spin and fly through the air. Danzo-sama, I did my best. He told himself as he could no longer speak. But the next second, he suddenly felt that something was wrong. The enemy's attack landed on his face, but what followed wasn't the terrifying force he thought would explode his head. Of course, the force wasn't insignificant. But along with the force, a power appeared that he was vaguely familiar with. This is a sealing technique. An extremely powerful sealing technique. The moment the large hand slapped his face, it transformed into a raging force that coursed wildly through his body. Upon finding chakra, it lunged at him ferociously, then blocked and imprisoned him. Suzumiya Musashi dodged the whistling shuriken and turned around. 2 of them stood tacitly before him, while the other 2 hurried toward the scroll. Suzumiya Musashi didn't want to laugh at the 2 men's arrogance, but he showed them the respect they deserved. With a flash of lightning, he increased his speed to maximum and advanced swiftly under the nervous gazes of the 2 men. Bang 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 bang. After dealing with the 2 men, Suzumiya Musashi looked up. Shouts were heard. Instantly, a thick branch enveloped them, descended slowly from the sky, and positioned itself in front of Suzumiya Musashi. Yamato appeared calm. His expression, without much fluctuation, seemed to indicate to Suzumiya Musashi that they were just 2 root ninja, which meant nothing to him as the squad leader. Only Hinata Uchiha and Yuzuki Yugeo, who were behind him, could see his pale face and the sweat on his cheeks. The squad leader is so pretentious, Hinata Uchiha whispered to Yuzuki Yugeo in a voice Yamato could hear perfectly. Aren't they all like that? Mao Yuzayan asked without any surprise. The squad leader is trying to save face in front of Musashi. After all, he's a former subordinate who's become the leader. It's understandable, Yamato. Shifting his stance somewhat awkwardly, Yamato decided to pretend he hadn't heard the 2 whispering. Why hadn't Musashi noticed? He was carrying 2 people, his hands must be tired. Below, Suzumiya Musashi calmly looked away. After the journey to the waters of the land of lightning, my body was filled with vitality, and my eyes could see far ahead like an eagle's. There was no need to explain something so insignificant. He casually placed another seal on the two people bound by wood release and looked toward the base in front of him. The remaining root ninja wouldn't hide forever. Having mastered ground intelligence, the next wave they faced would likely be a full-scale attack from the enemy. Prepare yourselves, Suzumiya Musashi said solemnly. Rabbit, investigate. Understood, Hinata Uchi replied, injecting chakra into his Byakugan. As he investigated, his expression suddenly changed. He almost shouted, the entire underground area. 40, 50 people, in response, the second after Hinata Uchi's roar, the earth shook. Boom, the ground collapsed. Square holes appeared, and ninja emerged one after another. Bright light flickered as chakra fluctuated. Humming, water rushed out, and thunder roared. The energy expelled from the metal tube far exceeded the chakra concentration of ordinary ninja performing ninjutsu. It carried unstoppable potential energy and instantly crashed down on the outer barrier. 1 second, 2 seconds, 3 seconds. The beam of bluish-white light faded. Under my master's nervous gaze, the barrier remained intact and didn't shatter as I had imagined. It was as if the energy had passed right through me, but it didn't matter. Energy-free barrier for everyone, a ninja shouted forcefully. The energy shot upwards, heading straight for the scroll guarded by Yamato and his men. The remaining ninjas automatically split into teams. Some attacked the Anbu ninjas on the periphery, while others targeted Suzumiya Musashi in the center. Earth escape, earth prison technique, fire style, dragon fire technique, wind style, tornado. Musashi was destroyed in the blink of an eye. The faces of several members of Yamato's team changed drastically. But at that moment, they didn't have the energy to worry about others. More than a dozen root ninjas, mounted on giant black birds, rushed frantically toward them. Go to hell, kill. Facing the advancing enemies, Hinata Uchi's face paled, and he silently assumed the starting stance of the Bagua gentle fist. Mao Yugeo drew his katana, his cold eyes reflecting the blade. Yamato sighed weakly. Remember what the captain said? The text abruptly shifts to a different topic. The text abruptly shifts again, seemingly unrelated to the preceding text. Then they saw the man who had just performed wood release riding the eagle backward, his face pale, while another man stood before him, his characteristic white eyes and veins bulging. Gentle fist, 8 diagrams, 32 palms, ... Chapter 332, Mission of Persistence in Seconds. The shadows of palms flew. The extremely penetrating chakra forced the few powerful root warriors at the front to temporarily dodge the attack. The lead ninja glanced at Hinata Uchi, who was firing at full power, and took a slight step back. There was a hint of mockery in his eyes. The next instant, he reached out, drew 2 kunai, and suddenly fired them amidst a flash of fire. Boom! Several root ninja followed suit, wrapping kunai with explosive talismans and firing at Hinata Uchi. As members of Root, they knew the Hyuga family's methods well. The attack is ferocious, and the scouting, unmatched. But, except for those of the main family, the defense is not durable, and the long-range attack is weak. Time the talisman to detonate, throw it, and that's it. Boom 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 boom, cough, 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 cough. The fire erupted, and Hinata Uchi stumbled backward through the smoke and dust, coughing uncontrollably. Mao Yu's Ayame, who was nearby, frowned. A fierce and determined look flashed in her eyes, and she was about to advance with a flash of her knife. However, before she could move, a branch suddenly coiled around her waist, and she and Hinata Uchi, who was close behind, were pulled back by its force. Squad leader, Mao Yu's Ayame looked back in confusion. Don't speak. Yamato used wood release with all his might, making her face sweat. She glanced at Suzumiya Musashi, who was now covered in various ninjutsu and couldn't see the situation clearly. Thinking about what Suzumiya Musashi had told her before the battle, she hesitated for a moment, but decided to carry out the plan. Retreat to the outer perimeter of the barrier first. Boom! Several detonating tags that couldn't be avoided in time exploded not far from him, and the violent shockwaves instantly shattered the ink eagle beneath his feet. Yamato quickly gathered them together, urging the wood release to rapidly expand, spreading it to the buildings outside the barrier, and the next second, he suddenly activated it. The 3 figures passed through the smoke and escaped the barrier. They're asleep, Yamato shouted. At the same time, the unattended ceiling shaft was shattered by the root ninja's attack. Then, the powerful yang escape chakra exploded. Hey, the wind howled. The surging chakra swept through like a hurricane. The people closest tried to dodge it, but they were still affected by the chakra. The large bird turned into ink and scattered. Under the bombardment of the yin-yang escape chakra, even the body's chakra was slightly altered, and the body suddenly collapsed. They're asleep. As soon as the words fell, the 4 Enbu combat squads deployed, some gripping ninja tools tightly, others changing hand seals, staring intently at the root ninja inside the barrier. The task: hold for 10 seconds. If you hold for 10 seconds, the task will be half complete, and you will be credited with an achievement. This is not a task so difficult that Enbu members cannot complete it. 10 seconds. It takes more than 10 seconds from the moment you pull out your handkerchief until you throw it away. A ninja can maintain a high-frequency output for more than 10 seconds. Something they should consider. A root ninja escaped from inside the barrier. The Enbu ninja suppressed outside the barrier. Earth release, Earth Dragon Bullet, 2 done, 2 Liubi, Water Style, Water Break, Lightning Release, Thunder Charge. There were bursts of fire and rumblings of thunder. Inside and outside the barrier, chakra roared and expanded, and ninja tools clashed together. The moment they fought, the ninja inside and outside the barrier realized something was wrong. A gap. The difference in ninjutsu power. Inside and outside the barrier, the ninjutsu power of the Enbu ninja and the root ninja was vastly different. The Enbu ninja performed the same B-level fire escape technique, and flames erupted everywhere. The root ninja performed it as if lighting a cigarette for their leader. It wasn't just fire style. Ninjutsu of the 5 attributes, wind, thunder, water, fire, and earth, lost its effects when executed within the barrier's range. There was large-scale ninjutsu performed by powerful jonin. Although the power was diminished, it still retained a degree of lethality. The situation wasn't so good for those with less strength. There was even a root chunin, at the very bottom of the weakest ninja list, holding back his strength to perform a water jutsu. It was so pathetic it was almost as if the old man couldn't stop it. The chunin refused to believe it and gathered his chakra to try again. Then, another shot. This time, he was engulfed by the ninjutsu of the Enbu ninja on the other side of the barrier. Incantation. It's still the damn barrier. Some root ninja realized this and looked up at the even stronger halo and chains above their heads, knowing deep down that this was the culprit behind the weakening of their ninjutsu power. As long as the barrier remained, it would be very difficult for the root ninja to pose a threat to the enemy. It was possible to have mystical or physical ninja, but the problem was that there weren't many such ninja in root, and even if there were, they lacked the ability to control the situation. The only ninja on the field who possesses this type of taijutsu is the enemy. Boom, the sound shook the sky. The mud cage suddenly exploded. Flames danced and shot out. A powerful aura spread through the center of the base. Everyone looked toward the field. Spotted. Suzumiya Musashi. A commoner ninja who wasn't born into a noble family and didn't possess noble blood or talent. Suzumiya Musashi had long been broken, but fortunately, in this case, there was no need to keep his identity a secret. He raised his head and looked around with a serene expression, slightly inspired by the fighting spirit. The thunder armor on his body had vanished, and a green aura hovered over him. Valley, blowing from the roots and causing pain in the cheeks of those around them, filling their hearts with fear. It is only fear. At the root, there is something that frightens them even more than fear itself, Denzo. Transformation. Suzumiya Musashi looked at the people in front of him with his white eyes, and felt as if time had slowed down. Chapter 333. 7 gates crushed, Danzo attacks. He felt a familiar chakra enveloping the surrounding world. It was the ninjutsu scroll he had created. It was a method specially prepared for Danzo's root, combining the theories of the 5 elements seal, the barrier seal, the yin seal, and others. Through the scroll's engraving and chakra infusion, the combination of the yin-yang escape and the 5 elements escape technique, once executed, could have a significant suppressive and weakening effect on 5 elements ninjutsu within a certain area. This barrier of sealing the 5 elements would suppress a ninja to some degree each time they performed 5 elements ninjutsu. Once the scroll was broken, the seal would be fully effective. Therefore, the power of chunin level ninjutsu might not be as strong as that of jonin, and vice versa. As for elite jonin, the weakening capacity of super powerful ninjutsu is less. Essentially, How many elite Jonin close to cage level can there be? This method was originally prepared for the large number of Jonin and lower-level ninja of root. Its usefulness lies in compensating for a lack of strength when overall power is insufficient. Of course, these measures come at a cost. This ninjutsu scroll is difficult to preserve for long. For this encounter with Danzo, he used the yin seal chakra he had accumulated over the past 6 months. He even anticipated all the methods Danzo might use and practiced how to deal with them in advance. Just for this possible day, he came prepared. Just as they treated Uchiha Itachi. When it all began, Suzumiya Musashi was already going to the trouble of preparing gifts for them, waiting for the other party to open them by hand. When Uchiha Itachi ignored Suzumiya Musashi's dissuasion and insisted on killing Uchiha Izumi and Uchiha Aoi, he opened the gift. Suzumiya Musashi for the second time. Boom! With a palm, the fire snake dissipated into heat-filled sky. Suzumiya Musashi sensed the speed at which the ceiling barrier disintegrated, calculating the enemies that needed to be eliminated while mentally counting down the time. Over 30 people, 8 seconds. If he put less pressure on the Anbu members on the periphery, he would have to eliminate more than 3 root ninjas per second on average. 8, boom boom boom, bang 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 bang, boom, 7, boom, bang, 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 whoa, duong, boom, sky, fight. Suzumiya Musashi initiated the battle. It felt great. If I had to describe it in one word, it would be comfortable. If I had to describe it in a scene, I would say that he seemed to have experienced the pleasure of Uchiha Madara. Supreme power flowed throughout his body. The enemies before him were nothing more than chickens and dogs. At that moment, in Suzumiya Musashi's eyes, those exclaiming, horrified, and merciless faces no longer represented a Chunin or a Jonin. Only a ninja. In other words, someone in a ninja uniform. Be it wind and thunder, water or fire. There is no difference under his fist. One strike and you are defeated. Comfortable. Very comfortable. This comfort consisted not only of repelling enemies, but also of the fact that the root group before him could no longer be his enemy. This comfort came from being able to do whatever he wanted. Protect those he wanted to protect according to his own will. Strike those with ill intentions according to his own will. Over the years, countless days and nights, the changing seasons, his incessant practice finally brought him satisfying rewards. Regardless of the ninja world, regardless of Uchiha Madara, regardless of the Otsutsuki. At least for now, in this village of Konoha, on these streets, he can finally do as he pleases. Strike. Who dares raise a hand or strike me or my people? If one strike isn't enough, strike twice. If 2 strikes aren't enough, kick. Of course, Suzumiya Musashi didn't go completely overboard. Even so, he maintained restraint. One is restraint in the means. The most powerful of his current techniques is the 8 gates of ninjutsu, which he didn't dare to fully activate. Second is the long-lasting version of the 7th gate, supported by the yin seal, and third is sage mode. He goes to great lengths to avoid displaying any method that has never been revealed publicly. Based on the characteristics of the roots, he finally chose a combination of 2 methods, physical skills and sealing skills. Of course, he would still use the 8 gates that had been exposed long ago. After all, everyone knew he was a physical ninja who focused on training his muscles. It didn't matter if the level of the sealing technique had been exposed a little. It wasn't uncommon to temporarily seal the chakra of a ninja who had lost their fighting power. As for the 5 elements sealing barrier, it obviously doesn't last long and consumes a large amount of chakra. The ninja villages of the 5 major countries might not be very interested, and ninjas from outside them, probably not either. What Suzumiya Musashi needs to do is eliminate a large number of root ninjas within the limited time the 5 elements sealing barrier is active, and then use the power of the 6th gate of the 8 gates to eliminate the remaining enemies. The plan can't guarantee 100% success, but at least for now, everything is still according to plan. Boom boom boom, 4, 3, ninjutsu pales in comparison at this moment. The power that stretches between heaven and earth is unmatched in absolute. Fists fly and legs move without stopping. Inside the sealed barrier, the present ninjas could barely see Suzumiya Musashi's figure. Only the whistling of the wind, the rumble, and the side of the earth shaking and dust flying everywhere could be heard. The root ninjas were like wood, and with each series of explosions, a figure was sent flying backward. Almost no one could stand. Whether they were Anbu ninjas or root ninjas, all were horrified and dismayed to see such a scene with their own eyes. This, our enemy, No. They can't handle this opponent. The opponents of such a ninja should be the strong and famous men of various countries, the fourth Hokage, Danzo. In short, they shouldn't be the so-called elites of root. Bang, 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 boom. 2. Within his body, chakra spreads like waves. Hard bones withstand terrifying muscular force, unleashing a terrifying power. Suzumiya Musashi looked at the only two remaining root ninja. Before the other's frightened eyes, he suddenly moved closer. Use both fists. Bang! Suddenly, a cloud of smoke rose in an instant. A large shadow was cast, blocking the sunlight above Suzumiya Musashi's head. Boom! 2 Anbu flew backward. At the same time, a prolonged scream shook the sky and earth. A strong wind suddenly rose and, as it whistled, a powerful suction force fixed on Suzumiya Musashi's figure. He's finally here, Suzumiya Musashi said secretly. Chapter 334, Secrets of the Mountain, Crisis. There was no time to think too much, for a terrifying pull enveloped him. Under the suction, Suzumiya Musashi and the ground beneath his feet were lifted together. Bang! The ground beneath his feet exploded, and Haruhi Musashi used the force of the recoil to spin around and shoot backward. What came into view was an enormous orange-red figure. A beast. Wrapped around its head was a giant bandage similar to Danzo's. The appearance of a summoning beast means you're close to Danzo. Suzumiya Musashi looked around, awakening his senses and trying to locate Danzo's figure. Ang! The roar became deafening. An even greater suction force erupted from the mouth of the nightmarish tapir. The sound of the wind distorted his vision and swept away the sinking sand and gravel. Suzumiya Musashi felt uncontrollably drawn toward the other person. The enormous mouth opened as if it would swallow him whole in an instant. Of course, Suzumiya Musashi wouldn't allow the other to get his wish. Although with his strength he could escape even if swallowed by an ordinary giant beast, who knew what kind of strange place was connected to the other's stomach? He suppressed the urge to use the Jufang Qianzan to slice the giant beast in front of him in half. Knowing his opponent's weakness beforehand, he chose the safest way to deal with him. Fire release, dragon fire technique. The root's main forces were completely defeated, and the ceiling barrier exhausted its power and dissipated. Suzumiya Musashi's hands glowed with afterimages, and a B-level fire seal quickly formed. Tapir, suddenly, an enormous sense of danger spread throughout his body. The hairs on his back stood on end. Danger. Enough to seriously injure him or even endanger his life. At the critical moment, he could only twist his body forcefully in the air. His flexibility and strength were pushed to their limits in an instant, and his torso, propelled by his limbs, twisted rapidly at an exaggerated angle. With one hand in front of his eyes and the other in front of his heart, his entire body contorted wildly in the air, and both palms shot forward. Boom, shishi, waves of air roared. 2 wind bullets, invisible to the naked eye, shot out with unparalleled force. One of them was slightly deflected by Suzumiya Musashi's palm wind, and a blood flower appeared on his left shoulder. Suzumiya Musashi didn't look at the wounds on his body, but his gaze suddenly shifted to the direction of the sneak attack. As far as he could see, 2 powerful wind blades overlapped, dragging along some pieces of gravel, and quickly grew larger before his eyes. Suzumiya Musashi's pupils suddenly contracted. The direct power of Danzo's Winjutsu could shatter Susanu's in complete form. Even he wouldn't dare be careless, not to mention who knew how long this old man had been hiding and holding back his strength. Suzumiya Musashi didn't even have time to breathe. In an instant, the 7th gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu suddenly opened. The green aura surrounding his body instantly turned blue. He focused his mind and suddenly raised his hands in front of his eyes. A tiger, the extremely compressed air emitted a pitiful sound. It took shape, roared, and crushed the wind blade in front of him. Buzz! A buzzing sound resonated in his ears. Suzumiya Musashi's expression changed drastically. The cause of his surprise wasn't Danzo's wind-style escape technique, but the sudden heaviness in his head. Dizziness, floating. The soul was like a rootless duckweed, pulled by the force of nothingness and swaying. The mystic art of the spirit mountain wind. As Danzo's right-hand man, Suzumiya Musashi certainly knew Yamanaka Feng's methods, but now was not the time. Danzo attacked with all his might, and any second of hesitation could have dire consequences. The opponent's timing was too cunning. How long would it take to break the opponent's magic? 3 seconds? 2 seconds? Or more? Suzumiya Musashi wasn't sure. He didn't even dare to think. The most urgent task was to do everything possible to break the opponent's sneak attack. Whether it was a matter of life or death, this onslaught had to be stopped first. With unwavering conviction, Suzumiya Musashi thought of nothing else. His mind remained instantly focused, concentrating with all his might, trying to discern the opponent's methods. Perhaps his mental strength after rebirth was different from that of ordinary people, or perhaps his consciousness had hardened due to years of practice. He endured the pain that pierced deep within his soul and tried with all his might to merge his soul with his body. In the midst of this uncertainty, he saw it. A blurry shadow appeared before his eyes. It resembled a human, with elongated arms, and was struggling to pull him away from his body. It was trying to take Suzumiya Musashi's place. I found you. Suzumiya Musashi perked up. Mysticism. Restrained. But that's alright. He had his own experience fighting spiritual opponents. In the maritime zone of the Land of Thunder, in the underground caves, battling the original will of thunder and water, he gained first-hand experience in combat. Faced with the unknown and powerful forces, an instinctive fear arises. To chew, to bite, to scratch, to kick. To use every imaginable means to attack. Until I discovered that the seemingly unfathomable power, the noble and unknown existence, and the nebulous means weren't so great after all. Find where the other person is and do it. This is what Suzumiya Musashi thought and did. When he saw the vague, human-shaped phantom, he didn't hesitate at all. His spirit was like ocean waves, churning up thousands of enormous ripples. With an indomitable impulse, he rushed toward the phantom, which seemed suddenly confused, and ran away. Boom! In the path where the external dark forces tried to escape in panic, 100 meters of chaos spread. Danzo was wrapped in bandages and, at that moment, like the others, rolled to the side without hesitation to avoid the attack of the day tiger. The old man didn't seem slow at all, except for his somewhat disheveled appearance in his flowing robes and wide sleeves. After all, no one had dared to attack Danzo for many years, which led him to behave this way. Danzo was a little angry, but more so proud. He turned around, stood up, and immediately looked at Suzumiya Musashi. Seeing his body tense and then fall into the air, a satisfied expression appeared on his face. Chapter 335, Violent Taijutsu, Danzo's Reluctance. An extraordinary talent, isn't he? He's incredibly strong physically, isn't he? He's so bold and daring at such a young age, even relying on his strength to come and cause me trouble, and even breaking into the root's lair in broad daylight. How are you now? It's all thanks to my wisdom. With this in mind, Danzo moved without hesitation. His old legs moved like the wind, and he rushed toward the falling figure of Suzumiya Musashi. It's a bit vulgar, but it's more important to be cautious. With Suzumiya Musashi's strength, Yamanaka Feng's method might not hold him for long. Compared to a cage-level fighter, Danzo doesn't care about appearances. Thinking of this, Danzo ran faster. Thinking about the scene after the tongue eradication seal was cast on Suzumiya Musashi, and thinking about Tsunade's helpless and furious expression, Lao Wai was already quite pleased. Evil, dog thief, shame on you, old man, stop. Most of the ambu surrounding the perimeter hadn't fallen yet. Danzo's movements were so abrupt and visible that they could see them clearly. But at that moment, the shouts were filled with anxiety and urgency, with a touch of desperation. Too fast. Danzo was too fast. Suzumiya Musashi was already closer to Danzo. If a cage-level warrior used Danzo, he would arrive almost at the same time Suzumiya Musashi landed. Yamato's face was as pale as paper. He roared and used wood release, and thick branches shot toward Danzo like javelins. Yuzuki Yugeo's eyes were ferocious. He raised his body, which had little chakra remaining, lifted the katana in his hand, and rushed towards Suzumiya Musashi, not caring about his own life. Of course, he knew it was too late. Speed and distance were so different. But even if there was no time, we must press on. Even if I can't save Suzumiya Musashi, I'll kill that old thief Danzo. If I can't kill him, I'll cut him with my sword. If I can't cut him, I can always splatter him with blood. Close. Close. Danzo's eyes flashed. Watching Suzumiya Musashi approaching ever closer, now so close he seemed to reach out and grab her, his legs raced, his hands already forming hand seals, and the seal chakra circulating impatiently. Suzumiya Musashi, here I come. Danzo had a terrifying smile on his face. He extended his right hand and performed the evil tongue eradicating seal. Then, he heard a scream of horror behind him. Hearing the scream, Danzo felt a deep concern. Why did the voice sound familiar? He didn't have time to think. Because the seal to eradicate the evil tongue was already prepared, and success was just a step away. Until Suzumiya Musashi moved. Before landing, he suddenly twisted his body with superhuman body control. Oh, the figure fell to the ground. Left leg forward, right leg on the ground. He clenched his fist with his right arm and braced himself on the ground, while raising his left arm behind him. Danzo was confused. His first thought was, what kind of stance is this? It's rather ostentatious. Then, oops. Bad, Suzumiya Musashi was right before his eyes. The outstretched right hand seemed to have touched the rag on the other's chest. An abyss he could never cross. It was difficult to tell if the strong wind started first or if Suzumiya Musashi raised his head first. Danzo could only see a pair of eyes that terrified him. There was determination, cruelty, and perseverance in those eyes. I'm not willing to accept this. I'm not willing to accept this. Danzo's eyes were about to explode. Almost. Just a little closer. Suzumiya Musashi will be his. Why is he so short? He knew very well that with the strength Suzumiya Musashi had just demonstrated, if he let this opportunity slip away, he might never get it again. Shadow-level support. Become the Hokage's right-hand man. The enormous pot of gold that would dominate the ninja world had slipped through his fingers. So he wasn't willing to give up. He even went so far as to madly blame his assistant, Shams Hongfen. Why is he so weak? So useless. He couldn't even hold Suzumiya Musashi for 3 seconds. In the midst of boundless resentment, his figure shot backward, and blue flames filled his vision, filling the space between heaven and earth. Boom, space vibrated, and heaven and earth hummed. The howling blue hurricane connected heaven and earth, roaring and roaring. Even though root base was located outside of Konoha, the force was enough for everyone in Konoha to see it. The ninjas in the midst of all this raised their heads and their eyes widened. Their hands fell limp, and their tools fell to the ground sparsely. Observing the scene before them, many even felt a pang of sadness. Is this real, Captain? A Taijutsu ninja? Haha, who the hell told me this is a Taijutsu ninja? Why do I feel like the nine-tailed fox has reappeared? Perhaps those were the words of astonishment from the Anbu members, or perhaps a complaint to alleviate a profound sense of unreality. But at that moment, seeing the power emanating from Suzumiya Musashi before them, they truly felt that, compared to the tailed beasts, their captain seemed no less powerful. It's decided. When I get home, I'll tear up the ninjutsu scroll and practice taijutsu. Wake up. If you do this, your father will beat you to death. Dad, I don't have a father. From now on, the captain is my father. That makes sense. Under the intense shock, the Anbu team members showed signs of dementia. Suzumiya Musashi, naturally, couldn't hear him. At that moment, he felt a searing pain in his chest and abdomen, and the violent, rising force almost made him scream. The chakra is building, after being struck by the mountain strike. Although it seemed a short time, he couldn't be sure how long it was from when he felt dizzy until he recovered. I don't even know what methods Danzo will use against me. A strong sense of crisis led him to use the explosive power of the 8 gates to its limit the moment he regained control of his body. The chakra in his body was violently stimulated, and the 7th gate, already activated, was violently released. Waves of chakra and air erupted from almost every inch of his body that he could use. Although it wasn't as powerful as the Day Tiger, launched with his hands, it was powerful enough to make any ninja retreat. He couldn't bear it. The consequences of failure due to momentary scruples. So he unleashed it with all his might. The force of the explosion was so powerful that, besides tearing his body apart in many places, even the barrier of the 8th gate of death began to loosen. Boom boom boom. Chapter 336. When physical abilities reach the peak. There was nothing in front of me but blue vapor. Not even earth or gravel. Only a nearly smooth pit nearby and swirling dust in the distance, with no trace of any human being. After quickly confirming that his body was alright and that nothing strange had happened, Suzumiya Musashi finally breathed a sigh of relief. Then, he swiftly contained the power of the 8 gates to avoid the true red temperature. I felt a little scared. After regaining his senses, Suzumiya Musashi looked toward where Danzo was flying backward, sensing his position. In an instant, he fixed his gaze on the other's figure. Heavy breathing and a slightly nervous posture. Boom, the figure pierced through the sand and dust and cut through Danzo like a sharp arrow. Stop, Danzo shouted as he fell back. Suzumiya Musashi ignored him. Hold your damn hands. Old man, you dare to target my people. You're done for if I don't do something. Stop, Danzo shouted in a panic, using almost all his strength, and continued teleporting over the ruins that overlooked the base. His gaze was so intense that it seemed as if Kinkaku and Jinkaku were pursuing him. I surrender, as the word spread, the Anbu ninjas were stunned. Was it really possible? The worthy elder of Konoha, the Dark Lord of the ninja world, Elder Danzo, who had been in charge of Root for decades, was unable to defeat the enemy and had to surrender? The Anbu members sighed, thinking they had never seen anything like it, and straightened their weak bodies, intentionally or involuntarily. Boom, naturally, Suzumiya Musashi was too lazy to respond to Danzo's words of surrender. He quickly flashed an attack from time to time, further embarrassing Danzo. Danzo felt extremely miserable, wondering how he, a veteran cage-level warrior, had ended up in such a pitiful state. Stop, someone leave someone alone. The sudden sound of several voices made Suzumiya Musashi frown. Without time to think, he fixed his gaze on Danzo, and the tiger was ready to attack. Just then, a purple mist suddenly billowed from the side, and with it appeared a man wearing glasses and a mask, somewhat familiar. The Oil Girl, Take the Root, a ninja from the Aburim clan, recruited by Danzo when he was young. She was skilled at controlling insects and poison techniques. Suzumiya Musashi, naturally, wasn't afraid. Before meeting Shen's Hongfeng, she still had some reservations. But she was very confident in taking Aburim's root. Not to mention the natural energy restriction on poisonous insects. As for movement, after opening the 6th gate of the 8 gates to the Jin Gate, she had the ability to fight at a distance. It was perfect for dealing with this type of ninja who used poison. Kisane tried to use the Great Shark Bullet to devour a tiger, but it didn't work. Let's see if your poisonous insect can poison my day tiger. Looking at Aburim Tone, who is attacking from the side, a cold look flashed in Suzumiya's eyes. Musashi, and he raised his arms. Roar, the tiger's roar shook the sky. The enormous and astonishing phantom seemed like a real object, plunging into the purple poisonous mist. The ground crumbled and the airwaves receded. Whether poisonous mist or ninja, in the wake of the day tiger, the crumbling walls and ruins disappeared, and the sky became clear and bright. Aburim Tajin, along with his poisonous insect, vanished before Suzumiya Musashi's sight. Suzumiya Musashi was not surprised at all. This is his method, this is the 8 gates. For the past 20 years, I have dedicated great effort to acquiring this extremely powerful physical ability. If you take something to the extreme, there will be unexpected results. Any method practiced to the extreme will have unexpected power. In the ninja world, there are methods so powerful that they can be used to obtain food and are very famous. For example, the Sharingan of the Uchiha clan is sufficient to enhance and combat physical abilities, illusions, giant opponents, etc. As the body develops to its extreme, unparalleled physical abilities are sufficient to obtain power comparable to the Sharingan and sealing techniques. Body muscles. Be it illusion, secret technique, seal, fire escape, lightning escape, or water escape. I can break it with a single blow. If it's not enough, hit me again. Aburim Tone, a poisonous ninja who terrorizes ordinary ninjas, only needs one blow to defeat the current Suzumiya Musashi. It's precise, he doesn't need a second attempt. After facing Aburim Tone, Suzumiya Musashi didn't hesitate and began searching for Danzo again. But he found him standing in the distance, breathing heavily, but he didn't flee again. Suzumiya Musashi clenched his fists. Halt, another voice was heard. This time, Suzumiya Musashi heard it clearly. The familiar voice made him frown instantly. Danzo. The ground beneath his feet exploded, and his figure was like a bolt of lightning. I surrender, Danzo shouted again, no shame in his voice. Boom, the ground in front of him collapsed, blocking Suzumiya Musashi's figure. Of course, he could have passed through the earthen wall, but seeing the figure that suddenly appeared before him, he finally stopped. His face was clouded. Do you know what you're talking about? Of course I know. Tsunade stood before him. That's what I wanted to ask, do you know what you're doing? Suzumiya Musashi looked at her as if she were an idiot. Integrate the Anbu and recruit root. Tsunade's face was serious. I didn't ask you to kill anyone, I haven't killed him yet, you're about to kill him. Suzumiya Musashi simply couldn't understand. Shouldn't he be killed? Of course not, Tsunade said. Recruiting root is different from attacking and killing Konoha elders. especially when the battle is over. Suzumiya Musashi said, I think he should die, because he was a ninja from the same village who was cursed. He deserves to die. For those who died, he deserves to die. Village, evidence, he's an elder of Konoha and has served the village for decades. A cursed seal isn't enough to kill someone. Musashi, I know what you're thinking, but things aren't as simple as you think. I can support your action of recruiting route, but attacking the elders of Konoha is not permitted, Tsunade said, and gave a gentle signal to Suzumiya Musashi. Not far away, two elders, a man and a woman, approached with murderous glares. In the distance, Konoha personnel who had heard the commotion and come to investigate were also gathering. Stop, Suzumiya Musashi, who gave you the courage to attack and kill the elders of Konoha? Do you know what this behavior is? The voices of Uten Kaoru and Midakato and trembled slightly, and they seemed fierce but weak inside. Suzumiya Musashi simply thought it was foolishness. He held Tsunade's gaze directly. Get out of my way, impossible, don't stop me. Or I'll beat you up too. Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Try it yourself. Tsunade took a step forward, and the aura of a cage-level power surged forth and stood tall. She was furious. Suzumiya Musashi's words enraged her even more than the other party's intention to kill Danzo. Go. Begin. Chapter 337 Tsunade, I am the Hokage. Suzumiya Musashi, she resisted the urge to strike the brainless woman in front of her. Suzumiya Musashi did her best to muster her patience. Tsunade, don't stop me, Danzo must die. Enough, Tsunade said. I still say the same thing. Proof, present sufficient proof, otherwise, I won't allow you to act again. Proof, right. Suzumiya Musashi's last drop of patience also ran out. Out of the corner of his eye, he fixed his gaze on Danzo, who was behind Tsunade. Instantly, his right hand suddenly rose. Whoosh, at that moment, and almost in an instant, the wind attribute energy, which had been repressed for so long, emitted an explosive whoosh. Whoosh, the full moon flickers. The wind attribute chakra, compressed to the extreme, suddenly shot out in the incomplete form of an absolute wind key elemental slash. Whoosh, I'll give you proof. As Suzumiya Musashi spoke, he bent his legs slightly, ready for a powerful attack. However, what surprised him was that Danzo, who was hiding behind Tsunade, seemed oblivious to Suzumiya Musashi's sudden attack. It caught him completely off guard, and he couldn't react in time. His arm was severed by the small disk of wind that suddenly flashed by. Hey, a soft sound. Blood gushed out. The bandaged right arm was easily cut by Suzumiya Musashi's wind escape technique. Bah! The severed arm rolled to the ground, the bandages tearing away. Inside, a pale arm covered in old wounds was revealed. Suzumiya Musashi's eyes suddenly opened. No. Nothing at all. The arm rolled to the ground, the torn bandage exposing the skin, and there was nothing but scars and wrinkles. No eyes. Not one. The bright red color came only from the blood spattering from the wound on the severed arm. Suzumiya Musashi suddenly looked up and stared at Danzo. The latter had a miserable expression on his face, filled with unbearable pain. However, Suzumiya Musashi sensed that the other's heart must be filled with mockery. Enough, presumptuous, Uten Kaoru and Midakato and shouted loudly. They walked a few steps closer, observed the miserable appearance of their old friend Danzo, his arm broken and bleeding on the ground, raised their heads, and their eyes filled with frenzied anger. Suzumiya Musashi, are you going to betray the village? Kaoru was stunned and her eyes widened. You, what did you say? I said to shut up. Tsunade spoke again mercilessly. Hearing this, the expressions of the two elderly advisors of Konoha suddenly became interesting. Disbelief, anger, distortion, various figures flickered with flexibility on their wrinkled faces. Uten Kaoru and Midakato could hardly believe what they were hearing. When they were sure they had heard correctly, they pointed with trembling fingers at Tsunade. They waited. Tsunade, who had previously been respectful and courteous to them, a young kunoichi who had risen to the position of Hokage with their help, had dared to speak to them like this. You, Tsunade was ruthless. Put your fingers down. The two fingers hesitated for a moment and then lowered them silently. Tsunade wasn't in the mood to pay attention to the thoughts of the two old men. She looked at Suzumiya Musashi with a sincere expression. Enough, listen to me, enough. No. Suzumiya Musashi remained calm and looked directly into Tsunade's eyes with a complex and resolute gaze. I had my reasons for doing this. I don't care about your reasons. Tsunade felt conflicted emotions. He understood what Suzumiya Musashi had said. What had Danzo always desired? Greater strength? More subordinates? No. It was the position of Hokage. If such a person were allowed to live, the one in greatest danger wasn't Suzumiya Musashi, but Tsunade. But she had her own reasons, too. You can't do this, you're a Konoha ninja, the elder is the Konoha elder. Then have you thought about the future, Danzo? Finally, there was a slight change in Suzumiya Musashi's expression. He, too, understood what Tsunade meant. Konoha ninja had attacked and murdered the Konoha elders. What to do if there wasn't enough evidence? Become a rogue ninja? Even if Tsunade did her utmost to protect him, what would Utankahuru and Midokatawa do? How would the major Konoha ninja clan see it? How would the rest of Konoha see it? To many, Danzo isn't an unforgivable sinner, but a long-time servant of Konoha who has remained in his position for decades for the good of the village. I don't want your opinion, Tsunade interrupted Suzumiya Musashi. What do others think? If you still don't understand, then look over there, Tsunade said, pointing into the distance. Suzumiya Musashi looked over. Those were the Konoha ninja who had heard the noise and come to observe. Jonin, Chunin, Shinanan, even civilians who had the courage to observe by force. Izumi, Uzumaki Karin, Tenten. Suzumiya Musashi finally understood what Tsunade meant. Did the other side want Danzo dead? The answer was yes. Many people who had dealt with Danzo wanted him dead, and Tsunade thought the same. But I can't die here. I cannot die at the hands of ninjas from the same village, and I cannot die in the dark in front of everyone. The reason is simple, righteousness. Attacking a superior with an inferior and punishing without cause goes against the highest principles of justice. Although Suzumiya Musashi didn't fully grasp it, he understood the importance of righteousness after 9 years of mandatory education without missing a single one. This is the foundation of the regime's stability. It is the cornerstone of order. Now, killing Danzo in public is certainly a relief. Was he really a damned villain? How should he face him? As a traitor? Or as an Ambu captain who relied on his own strength and acted arrogantly in the village? At that moment, Uchiha Izumi, Uzumaki Karin, Tenten, Ayame, what should they do? Suzumiya Musashi looked at Tsunade again. They looked at each other, worried about one another. Finally, Suzumiya Musashi's tone softened. I understand your thoughts, but are you sure your current decision is the right one? Tsunade asked aloud. Of course, my decision wasn't wrong, Suzumiya Musashi, you must remember this, I am the Hokage. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 338 Danzo, I'm going to the Hokage building to find a class. Hokage? Huh? Suzumiya Musashi looked at Tsunade with a complex gaze, then turned and left. She'll regret this, Hokage-sama, bang, Utankahuru kicked furiously. Tsunade, you really let him go like that, how could you? Tsunade suddenly turned her head and looked directly into Utankaharu's elderly face with piercing eyes. The aura of a cage-level expert was clearly on display, causing Utankahuru, who had been dormant for a long time, to tremble inwardly. Terrible. That was the only feeling Utankahuru had. When the back, which had always been submissive, suddenly revealed its violent side, she realized that the person in front of her was not the girl who only knew how to drink and gamble. Tsunade. What are you doing? Midokatawa shouted from the side. Do you still know you're the Hokage? That bastard seriously injured Danzo, and you just let them get away. Shut up, Midamayan. He and Utankahuru exchanged glances, feeling the same emotion. Absurd, terrifying. Tsunade ignored them. She turned and walked toward Danzo, standing silently before him and extending her right hand. Give it to me, Hokage-sama, what are you doing? Danzo covered his wound with his hand, his expression bewildered. I already told you, Hokage-sama. Danzo's eyes darkened, then he looked down. Could you explain more clearly? Crunch, crunch. Tsunade clenched her left fist, emitting a series of strange noises. The powerful aura directed toward him left Danzo with no doubt that if he continued to act foolishly, he would be met with Tsunade's fist. It's even possible that Tsunade, who's on the verge of a meltdown, will call him back. Cursing inwardly, Danzo finally extended his left hand between his trembling arms. After a moment, a scroll was handed to him. The seal to eradicate the evil of the tongue? Tsunade took it, glanced at it briefly, and extended her hand again. She shuddered. Hokage-sama, regarding the list, Tsunade said gravely, aren't you here? Then tell me each name. Yes, yes, yes. Danzo had given up hope, so he rummaged through the scroll he was holding and finally handed a list to Tsunade. Tsunade took it and flipped through it again. It contained a large number of names and recorded information, and a rough count showed that there were almost 100 people. Tsunade knew perfectly well that Danzo must have more people in his hands than were listed. But she didn't expect the other side to hand them all over. As long as most of the root men, especially the recruits from Konoha and the civilians, were among them, that would be enough. She couldn't arrest Danzo, interrogate him, and torture him. Even if she wanted to. After putting away the scroll and the list, Tsunade didn't stay where she was, but turned and left. Kaoru and Midakato wanted to say something, but they remembered Tsunade's frenetic aura from before, and their breathing slowed slightly. They didn't say a word. Until Tsunade's figure disappeared from their sight, the Anbu ninjas had already left with Suzumiya Musashi, and the root ninjas scattered on the ground were gathered and brought back by Tsunade's subordinates. When the spectators were expelled, only 3 old friends remained. The atmosphere was silent for a moment. Midaminen's expression constantly changed. After a while, he looked at Danzo, who was covering his wound, and asked in a cold and worried tone, "How is he? Can't you die?" Danzo's face darkened. "You can't die." However, Utsursimi Kaoru did not have Midaminen's good temper. "What happened? How dare that Suzumiya Musashi attack you? What have you done that we don't know about?" The anger that Tsunade and Suzumiya Musashi they had suppressed their anger, now addressing Danzo. I didn't do anything." Danzo looked at his old friend with a slightly evasive expression. "It's not that I'm ashamed of what I did, but it's been years since I've felt this ashamed." "You didn't do anything." Kaoru's face was full of suspicion. "You didn't do anything? Someone broke into my house in broad daylight. Suzumiya Musashi is crazy. Or is Tsunade crazy? Why are you yelling at me?" Danzo said furiously. "How could I have thought you were so audacious? To be precise, I didn't expect Suzumiya Musashi to be so strong. If I had Suzumiya Musashi's strength, I could be even more ruthless than the other team. It doesn't matter if the strong bully the weak, and if you lose a bet, you have to accept defeat. This has always been their philosophy. The weak are destined to be trampled by the strong. Whoever is stronger and more patient will naturally have all the power." He simply regretted it. "I regret not running faster now. Suzumiya Musashi has become a grown man. With his strength reaching cage level, he is no longer someone who can be manipulated at will." Tsunade would probably be even more proud of herself after receiving help from the other team. Danzo sighed inwardly. "What's wrong with me yelling at you? What's your attitude now?" Kaoru continued whispering in Danzo's ear. "Do you know this almost caused a major disaster in the village? Hirozen is dead. There are only a few old folks left in the village now. You should think carefully before you do anything." Danzo could no longer stand the noise from the other party. He looked up impatiently and glared coldly at Kaoru. "You should tell this to Tsunade. Instead of keeping quiet now, you're taking your anger out on me." Kaoru's voice trailed off, and her face flushed red, as if she'd been pricked with a wound. It turned purple, and she exhaled sharply, saying angrily, "I know, I'll tell Tsunade myself. You don't need to remind me." With that, she turned to face Shuhumenayan. "Let's go, Midaminen. Where are we going? Where else could we go?" "Go find Tsunade. We can't let today go by. We must give everyone in the village an explanation." "Oh," Mizuto Menayan replied helplessly. Then he looked at Danzo and asked, "Do you want to come with us?" "Forget it. You go ahead." "I'm not going." Danzo, uninterested, bent down to pick up his broken arm. "Midaminen, so where are you going?" Danzo said, "If you're asking for now, of course I'm going to heal my wounds. If you're asking about the future." Danzo thought for a moment and said, "Go and inform the Hokage to look for Tsunade." Mizuki Katoyan was full of doubt. "Why, you were almost killed a moment ago. They even ripped out your roots." Danzo replied matter-of-factly, "Of course it's work. As an elder, even without roots, I must contribute to the village. Furthermore," Kaoru insisted impatiently, "Okay, let him go heal. We'll go find Tsunade first." I watched Midaminen and Kaoru leave until they disappeared from sight. Danzo turned and walked toward Konoha Hospital. He wasn't lying. After his injuries healed, He really did plan to find Tsunade and get a job that would allow him to work at the Hokage building. If only to continue contributing to the village and gain a deeper understanding of the will of fire beneath the Hokage rock. He can't even work from home, he has to go to work. Chapter 339 Tsunade's Change of Attitude. That night. Tsunade's office. Holding the list in her hand, Tsunade, whose power had increased considerably, rubbed her brows lightly. I feel like going to work is really exhausting. Fortunately, although I was a little tired, I gained a lot today, with a strength of nearly 100 ninjas, almost all of them elites above the Chunin level. Their mission style is comparable to that of the Anbu's treasures. At this moment, most of them have fallen into her pocket. After mastering the contents of the tongue eradication seal and breaking the root ninja curse, most of these ninjas, covered in scars and bruises, showed expressions of relief at having survived such a calamity. As long as people aren't stupid, they won't be willing to be a dog whose life and death aren't their own. After expressing her desire to recruit them, Tsunade required almost no effort, and most of these grateful ninjas were willing to join the Anbu and serve the Great Hokage. There were also those who had been brainwashed too severely and couldn't accept it for a while, or were tired of living in the shadows and wanted to be ordinary mission ninjas. Tsunade organized them one by one. Only 2 people were truly in dire straits, Mountain Wind and Oil Girl, who were carrying the route. Among them, Abure Suchijin's injuries were extremely serious. He had been run over by a dump truck, with all his bones and tendons broken. Added to this was the horrific toxin in his body. Even the medical ninja was helpless. Even Tsunade could only guarantee the opponent's life, but his ninja career could end. Arguably, the other party was one of the few people in Konoha who could write route retreat on their resume. Tsunade sent a letter to the Abure clan, asking if they should bring Abure back and expressing her condolences for his injuries. Another Mountain Wind. The situation is even more problematic. The opponent had no injuries on his body, save for scratches from flying stones. There were hardly any problems. But the morale of the other side was severely damaged. I don't know what happened in the previous battle. From time to time, his face showed horror and fear with his eyes closed, and he cried out, "No, I don't want to, don't come." The situation is even more serious than when he was struck by Tsukuyomi. Tsunade plans to ask Suzumiya Musashi what will happen in the future. In short, today can be said to have been a very productive day. Danzo in public, and she had to clean up a mess. But thinking about Danzo's frustrated expression when he handed her the list and the scroll today, and the expressions of Uchiha Kaoru and Midamanen, too frightened to speak, she couldn't help but giggle secretly. Hey, Lady Tsunade, the sudden voice startled her. She quickly suppressed her expression, pretending to work hard, and frowned slightly as she glanced at Jingai in the doorway. Oh, Shizune. What's wrong? Shizune smiled awkwardly and said, well, the 2 elderly counselors have been waiting at the door all afternoon. Should we let them in? Without waiting for Tsunade to speak, she emphasized, judging by their appearance, if you don't see them today, they'll be back tomorrow. This time, Tsunade's brow furrowed for real. After thinking for a moment, she finally waved her hands impatiently. Never mind, let them in. Tsunade, you finally stopped hiding from us. The voice came before the person arrived. The first thing Uchiha Kaoru said was that Tsunade was hiding, which helped them regain momentum. Tsunade was too lazy to worry about such small details. Today's great victory had completely changed her mindset. When she faced the 2 of them again, she no longer felt as tormented and sad as before. Don't talk nonsense. I'm busy. Let's get to the point. Okay, I'll leave work. Uchiha Kaoru and Midamanen, do you want to hear what you have to say? Tsunade, what's with your attitude? Uchiha Kaoru raised her eyebrows. We 2 old folks have been waiting for you outside all day. Tsunade said nothing and began clearing the table. With gestures, she told the other party that it was time to end the day. Seeing this, Midamanen tried to defuse the situation. Wait, say something, let's talk first. He used his expression to prevent Uchiha Kaoru from complaining and then asked earnestly, Tsunade, this incident happened suddenly today, and we 2 old folks didn't react or resolve it in time. Address it. You don't have to deal with it anymore. Tsunade, Mito Katoen said sternly, you don't have to pretend to be confused. Suzumiya Musashi not only attacked Rude in broad daylight, but she also nearly killed Danzo. You should know that this matter is not something easily resolved. Midamanen's tone became more serious, showing her earnest attitude. Tsunade was silent for a few seconds and then asked, "What do you think?" Hearing this, Uchiha said angrily, "Such a disobedient ninja is simply a black sheep. She's so arrogant and domineering. We must teach her a severe lesson so that everyone understands." Tsunade rolled her eyes, and her impatient glare made Uchiha's tone stall. Then, the anger increased even more. Here we go again. There was that cold look again, as if she didn't take her seriously. Uchiha noticed that ever since Suzumiya Musashi attacked Danzo earlier today, Tsunade's attitude towards several people had drastically worsened. In the past, no matter how they met, they would still address each other as seniors, but today, he turned his back on them at the slightest provocation. Outrageous. As she gathered her thoughts, Tsunade spoke coldly. "Don't say such stupid, angry things. A harsh lesson? How do you want to teach me? How do you want to teach me? Suzumiya Musashi is mine. He's the youngest cage-level ninja in Konoha. Before you speak, use your rusty brain and don't waste my time." Ugh. Ugh. Uchiha opened her eyes and took a deep breath. It seemed like it would all be over in a second. Chapter 340, Suzumiya Musashi's Punishment Decision. After noticing that Tsunade still wore a cold expression, her breathing finally calmed. Imminent said solemnly, "Tsunade, what do you think we should do? You're recklessly attacking the village. As Hokage, you should know the consequences of allowing it." Uchiha took a deep breath and nodded at this. "Yes, tell me what to do first." Her voice trailed off, as if she were wrestling with her thoughts. After a while, she finally spoke. "Remove Suzumiya Musashi from his position as Anbu captain. I'm locked up for a month and can't leave." After saying this, without waiting for either of them to express their opinions, she raised her head and said coldly, "This is my greatest concession. Whether you agree or not, think carefully before you speak." Uchiha and Mitokado exchanged glances and, after a moment, finally nodded. "All right, let's do it." Midamanen and Uchiha walked away with purposeful steps and solemn expressions, as if they had just completed a difficult task. After they left, Tsunade's serious, strained expression vanished instantly. With a paw, she leaned back in her chair and chuckled after a long while. "That scoundrel, he's been left with nothing to do again. It's easier for him." Tsunade thought she knew Suzumiya Musashi quite well. If it were someone else, she would probably be extremely saddened to learn that they had been dismissed right after their promotion. But this Suzumiya Musashi was different. "I don't know how happy I would be to hear this news." The other side. Suzumiya Musashi brought all the Anbu members back, instructed the medical team to treat some of the wounded, and then returned home. Mao Yuzayan drove him back. The 8 Gates explosion occurred. Fatigue and bitterness washed over him like a tide, and he collapsed to the ground with a groan. He was picked up by Mao Yugeo, who had been planning this for some time and was practically unharmed. Suzumiya Musashi considered refusing. Unfortunately, his body's reaction was more real than his own. "Put me down now, I can walk by myself." "Forget it. Besides speaking well, what else can you do now? Be a good girl and lie down. I'll take you home." "Suzumiya Musashi, I told you, I can walk by myself." "Oh? Really?" Yugeo looked again at Suzumiya Musashi's face, which was so close to hers. "Are you sure?" Then she lowered Suzumiya Musashi from her back. Suzumiya Musashi landed on his feet. Then on his knees. Then face down. "Hey, Captain, what's wrong with you, Captain? Are you, no matter how hungry you are, you can't eat dirt?" Yugeo shouted, but didn't reach out. She simply watched Suzumiya Musashi lying on the ground. She stretched out her hands, clenched her fists in front of her chest, and urged herself, "Come on, Captain, come on, get up." Suzumiya Musashi, he vowed that, once recovered, he would train his skilled subordinates well. "Captain, why aren't you getting up? You don't want to get up." Suzumiya Musashi abruptly turned his head and stared at Yugeo, as if trying to recall the scene before him. Mao Yuzayan only felt a chill run down his spine. He unnaturally avoided her gaze and said, "Forget it, Captain, I'll carry you on my back." With that, he picked up Suzumiya Musashi and carried him. "Don't worry. When we get to your house, I'll leave you at the door and go. No one will find out. You don't have to worry about a misunderstanding." From a chorus. He said nothing, turned around, and said, "Captain, I'm talking to you. Why aren't you answering me?" At the same time, he pinched his thigh with both hands. SSS, Suzumiya Musashi took a deep breath. "Rest at home, I'll wait for you. Please don't miss me." Suzumiya Musashi, Having to rely on someone else to carry me, the journey home feels particularly long. Especially when the woman carrying him on her back walks slower and slower, perhaps with ulterior motives, and even starts to veer off course, making time seem even longer. Fortunately, no matter how long the journey, it will eventually come to an end. It's not because Mao Yuzian regrets it. It's because when he veers off course in front of Suzumiya Musashi's house, someone stops him. "Give him to me," Uchiha Izumi says coldly, and without hesitation, reaches out and snatches Suzumiya Musashi from Yuzuki Yugeo's back. Mao Yuzian looks embarrassed by Uchiha Izumi's domineering behavior, but she's angry, though she doesn't dare say anything. "Damn it, I run. Not this woman again. This Uchiha must be her nemesis. Well, you can go now." Uchiha Izumi hoisted Suzumiya Musashi onto his shoulders and coldly ordered Yuzuki Yugeo to leave. The latter looked displeased and wanted to say something, but in the end, he just looked at Suzumiya Musashi, who was being carried, and gave him instructions. "Watch out." The person beneath him was replaced by Uchiha Izumi. He stopped, confused. "Abs?" Suzumiya Musashi finally said. Uchiha Izumi frowned slightly. "I know you have abs, what are you talking about?" Suzumiya Musashi gasped. "My abs are going to split." In the shoulder carry stance, the strength in the abdomen is highly concentrated. "Gate ninjutsu." Uchiha Izumi hoisted him onto his shoulders and walked with him, staggering. He felt that if he continued that way, he might not make it home. Uh-oh. Uchiha Izumi realized too late. Looking at Suzumiya Musashi with a pained expression, she thought about it and finally found a position that wouldn't cause him pain. 10 seconds later, Suzumiya Musashi, who was being held by Princess Uchiha Izumi, seemed to have lost all hope in life. "How about, you carry me? Actually, fainting from pain isn't that bad, don't be so stubborn." Uchiha Izumi looked at him helplessly. "Don't worry, I'll find out beforehand if there are people nearby. You'd better get some rest." Chapter 341 Karen's Surveillance Mission. "By the way, what did you want to talk to me about?" Suzumiya Musashi chatted for a bit. Uchiha-kwan said, "It wasn't me who was looking for you, it was Aoi." "Aoi?" Suzumiya Musashi was stunned, and then he realized something. "She also knows what happened a moment ago." "What do you think?" Uchiha Izumi said sadly. "You're so brave. I didn't expect the way you said you'd handle it to be handled like this. There were quite a few people watching a moment ago, including ninjas and civilians. I suppose your name has already spread throughout the village." "Captain Musashi, you're impressive," Suzumiya Musashi said. Although the method is a bit rough, the result is still good. At least Danzo is definitely not in the mood to cause you any trouble right now." Uchiha Izumi was silent. After a moment, he whispered, "Thank you." Suzumiya Musashi lifted the corner of his lips. "You're welcome." Soon, they both returned to Suzumiya Musashi's house. Without needing to be reminded, Uchiha Izumi put down Suzumiya Musashi, who was carrying him like a princess, and stepped forward to hold him before going inside. As the door opened, a figure suddenly rushed into Suzumiya Musashi's arms. "Big brother, whistle." The sound of a sniff made Uchiha suddenly look up. She stared at Suzumiya Musashi, whose facial features were distorted, her eyes red, and asked worriedly, "Brother, are you alright?" What had happened today had caused quite a stir, and many ninja from the village had witnessed the scene firsthand. Uchiha was one of them. At first, she, like everyone else, had thought something serious had happened in the village and had come to see it only to join in the fun. It wasn't until she saw Suzumiya Musashi's figure that she suddenly realized something. Thinking about a person she had met recently and that Uchiha Izumi had gone looking for Suzumiya Musashi, how could she not guess? She was one of the reasons for this great battle that had alarmed Konoha. Uchiha's heart was in turmoil. On one hand, it was due to her strong feelings for Suzumiya Musashi, and on the other, also to guilt. If Suzumiya Musashi suffered harm because of her, she could never forgive herself. Luckily, everything was safe. It's okay, Suzumiya Musashi gritted her teeth and clung to the sofa. "Why are your eyes red? Sit down and talk." With the help of the two women, Suzumiya Musashi finally collapsed onto the sofa. "This is ridiculous." Uzumaki Karen approached with a glass of water. Just as he was about to put it on the table, he saw Suzumiya Musashi's expression and simply put it in his mouth. Suzumiya Musashi tasted it and confirmed that the temperature was just right. "Why didn't you ask the medical team to treat you?" Uchiha Izumi suddenly asked. Suzumiya Musashi replied, "The medical team is short-staffed." Magical chakra glowed, and Suzumiya Musashi's aching muscles slowly began to recover. As he tended to him, Uchiha Izumi said calmly, "Next time something like this happens, let me know in advance." Suzumiya Musashi didn't care. "Why would I tell you? You're a medical ninja, so stay home." Uchiha Izumi, "Why do you look down on medical ninjas, Captain? I can still help collect bodies." Suzumiya Musashi choked. He knew Uchiha Izumi blamed him for acting on his own and doing something so serious. However, if he had to do it again, he would. The fight should, of course, be for the good guys. And women should stay out of it. Aoi, when you grow up, you should speak more gently. Don't be like your sister, understood? Hiss. Suddenly, she felt her muscles go extremely numb, and Suzumiya Musashi trembled. She stared at the expressionless Uchiha Izumi, but in the end, she said nothing. "I understand." Uchiha Aoi couldn't stand seeing her sister bullying Suzumiya Musashi, so she gently rubbed the wound that Uchiha Izumi had just forcefully inflicted with her small hands. Seeing this, Uzumaki Karin pursed her lips. But this time, she didn't say much about Uchiha Aoi's behavior. Due to the age difference, Uzumaki Karin had far surpassed her and had become a grown-up child. However, although Uchiha Aoi had grown a lot, she still looked like a child. As an adult, she certainly wouldn't be jealous of a child and would simply know more. After comforting the child, Suzumiya Musashi called to Uzumaki Karin. "Karin, I have a question for you." Uzumaki Karin was stunned. "What's wrong?" Suzumiya Musashi asked. "How is your shadow clone's perception?" Uzumaki Karin thought for a moment and said, "Judging by the amount of chakra consumed, overall, it's a bit worse than the original body. It's almost there, but it should be enough." Suzumiya Musashi said, "I have something important to tell you." "What is it?" "Create a shadow clone and monitor Danzo's situation for me 24 hours a day." Suzumiya Musashi's eyes flashed with an intense light. "If you notice any unusual movements, especially if the other party intends to leave the village, tell me." Suzumiya Musashi had no intention of letting Danzo go. Although he knew the other party was cautious and wouldn't easily provoke him again, he still felt uneasy. Now that the relationship was broken, they were enemies. A dead enemy is a good enemy. He admitted he had been careless during the day. "I thought that Danzo's true cruel face would be exposed to everyone, but I didn't expect the old man to be so perceptive and have prepared in advance." When he discovered there was no eye on the pale arm, he knew Danzo had made his decision. "I'm afraid that when I attacked the root base, the other side had already made up its mind. Hide. Don't expose the Sharingan in the village. If I can defeat myself by cooperating with Shanzi Hongfeng, that would be best. If not, I can always admit defeat." A Burane tone summoned Tsunade and 2 elder advisors to ensure his survival, even with the intention of killing. "The other side won the bet, so I couldn't kill him. But this doesn't mean this matter is over. Besides the people on the list, Danzo has been operating in the ninja world for decades, so there must be some hidden power. He left the village. I simply couldn't believe that the other side could be hiding in the village." On the other hand, Uzumaki Karin heard Suzumiya Musashi's words, looked at her in surprise, and then vehemently said, "Give him to me." Monitoring the actions of a powerful shadow-level individual is an arduous task, difficult for others to accomplish, but it's precisely what she needs. Besides, she felt that Suzumiya Musashi's explanation was overly conservative. As a descendant of Uzumaki, her chakra far surpassed that of ordinary ninjas. She decided to be cautious and created 3 shadow clones to observe Danzo from all angles. She had to complete the task Suzumiya Musashi had entrusted to her. Uchiha Izumi's medical ninjutsu is very good. Even stronger than that of an average medical ninja. When Ayame returned home and anxiously searched for Suzumiya Musashi, he was wearing an apron and waving a spatula in front of the stove. "Sister, you're back." Suzumiya Musashi glanced at Ayame and easily noticed the panic and unease hidden in her eyes. He waved his spatula and said with a smile, "Hurry up and wash your hands. The food will be ready soon." "Musashi, Musashi." She looked him up and down nervously. Before she could find any fault with him, Suzumiya Musashi had already embraced her. Of course his body tensed. Then, she hugged Suzumiya Musashi with all her might, as if she feared he might suddenly disappear. Chapter 342 Suzumiya Musashi, Dismissal? Is there such a thing as that? To keep a course from worrying, he told the other party he was in good health. That night, Suzumiya Musashi prepared a hearty meal. Cooking is physical labor. It's difficult to explain to others the pain of enduring bodily discomfort while pretending to be fine. He cleaned up and rested. Early the next day, his long-lasting biological clock allowed Suzumiya Musashi to wake up on time. He gently moved the chorus away, who was clinging to him like an octopus in his sleep. Boom! Despite a muscle pain from the previous night, he washed, dressed, and began his morning physical training. I'm in so much pain I want to die. Uzumaki, Karin and Ayame also left, one after the other. Just as Suzumiya Musashi was pondering what to do today, Tsunade arrived in person. She informed him of her decision. The captain of the secret department was dismissed and confined to his home for a month, without permission to leave. Is there anything good about it? He asked. Resentment for not fighting back. Is that all you can do? You were appointed squad leader for a short time and then dismissed. Don't you feel anything? Should we learn from our mistakes and be more motivated? Suzumiya Musashi, he wanted to ask, are you sane? What if he was fired? Life isn't just about work. There are also 3 meals a day. But seeing Tsunade's dissatisfied attitude, he had to guard his feelings. Well, the truth is, I'm a little sad. I'm just worried that you're under too much pressure. Why did Utane Kaharu and the others come to bother you? Tsunade snorted. Yes, shortly after I returned, the 2 old folks came running. I left them alone all day, but then I couldn't get over it. I had no choice but to fire you, of course, Lord Hokage. Suzumiya Musashi gave a surprised thumbs up. Finally, you're getting tougher. Tsunade's mouth curled. To be honest, it's all thanks to you. You nearly killed Danzo. I could feel the 2 of you panicking. Compared to you, my attitude toward them can be considered gentle. Suzumiya Musashi didn't correct Tsunade's ill-chosen words. So, Hokage-sama, you came all this early in the morning just to tell me in person that you were fired. Don't worry, I'm very forgiving. A mere dismissal from my post won't affect my loyalty to the village or to you. Virtue. Tsunade rolled her eyes. She continued, I'm the Hokage, and I have a lot to do every day. Of course, I didn't come to see you. Just to give you some news. Suzumiya Musashi's expression darkened. Huh? There won't be any more missions, will there? What's your attitude? Tsunade raised her eyebrows. Can I quit if I get fired? Suzumiya Musashi's expression was clear. Yes, no. Tsunade, Pan, why don't you change your name to Kwangang Musashi? I'm too lazy to talk nonsense with you. In a few days, another group of students will graduate from the Ninja Academy. I plan to appoint you leader of a small class. Suzumiya Musashi, no, why don't you talk nonsense to me? You have to. I don't want to lead any team, nor do I want to be a Jonin. I'll be confined at home and reflect on my mistakes. As for leading a Jonin, you should ask someone else for help. Bring the kids. It's not an easy life, if you think about it. When he went out to train, he took Tenten and Karin Uzumaki with him. First, they were both adults and wouldn't cause much trouble. Second, Musashi Suzumiya had reached the age where he needed someone to look after him. If he took 2 people, he could also prepare his own meals. Before, Naruto Uzumaki did it for Kushina. Sasuke Uchiha was precocious and didn't need to worry too much. Now that the little ghosts had finally grown up, he didn't want to look after them anymore. Instead of taking care of the girl, why not take better care of his sister? Tsunade said sternly, I've come to inform you, I'm not here to discuss this with you. There hasn't been anything lately that requires your help. Besides, since you attacked Root, it's not in your best interest to show up right now. It's a waste to stay home. Leading a 3-person team will not only help us, not only give us something to do, but also allow us to train the next generation of Konoha. You know, if the village wants to survive, it can't rely solely on the strength of a few. We also need to cultivate talent. Jonin leader, you can't hide. Suzumiya Musashi's eyes widened. They were filled with anger and disbelief. No. Tsunade, speak plainly. What do you mean I attacked Root? Who am I doing this for? Who signed the consent form? Is this how you treat those who work for you? I bleed for Konoha? I bleed for you. Stop it. Tsunade reached out to interrupt Suzumiya Musashi's sensational performance. She said simply, stop talking about this. I've already added you to the list of Jonin leading the team this time. Also, Uchiha Aoi will be graduating this year. Perfect. Being her Jonin leader will guarantee both her progress and her safety. Suzumiya Musashi, you. I don't want that little Aoi assigned to a talentless team leader, or for her to be in danger when she's on a mission outside, do I? Musashi said. Suddenly, I don't want to talk anymore, Tsunade said. Aren't you going to say anything? If you don't say anything, I'll take it as your consent. Well, that's enough. I have something else to say. Suzumiya Musashi looked up. Something else? What is it? Tsunade looked around and saw that no one was nearby. Then she whispered, come have some fun with me. Suzumiya Musashi's eyes suddenly widened. What? Don't play dumb. Tsunade reached out, grabbed Suzumiya Musashi's arm, and dragged him inside the house. Come play with me. I'm addicted. I have all my things. Wait. Suzumiya Musashi said hurriedly. No, I won't bet with you. I'm telling you, I don't have any money right now. If you don't have any money, I'll lend it to you. Stop talking nonsense. Open up. Chapter 343, The Young and Wise Rock Lee. After losing Root, Danzo finally found a job at the Hokage building thanks to Tsunade. After several applications, his duties were simply sending and receiving documents, copying them, and managing logistics. It sounds a bit confusing, but it generally involves a lot of work, little power, and a low profile. Danzo accepted it gladly. The matter of incorporating and integrating Root seemed to have come to an end with Suzumiya Musashi's house arrest. However, in the outside world, the impact of Suzumiya Musashi's actions still lingered. First, there was the dark side. Under Suzumiya Musashi's leadership, an Anbu combat team of fewer than 20 people annihilated all the members of Root. Such a feat filled the Anbu with pride. Even the wounded, with bandages on their arms and legs, walked with their heads held high and eyes full of confidence and enthusiasm. Fewer than 20 against 100, but still a great victory. Listen. How encouraging. Although the primary responsibility for the battle rested on the squad leader, the wake temporarily removed squad leader Suzumiya Musashi from his post. But that doesn't matter. What matters is that fewer than 20 people defeated 100. I have to press the corners of my mouth shut every night before going to bed, otherwise, they'll be crooked when I wake up the next day. Great. Once everyone has recovered from their injuries and regrouped, Suzumiya Musashi will be reinstated by the Hokage. By then, the future of the Anbu will be bright. However, before they could even wait for Suzumiya Musashi's house arrest to end, they discovered it was too soon to be happy. After the Anbu members recovered one after another, before they had time to rest properly, something else happened. Moreover, it could be said that they asked for it themselves. Incorporate the Roots. There are almost 100 people on the Roots list. Except for those who are seriously injured. Some have quit their high-pressure jobs and plan to become ordinary mission ninjas or return to their families, while others haven't been brainwashed. Nearly half are still ready to return to their old jobs and work in the Anbu. Of course, this group isn't suited to serve as Tsunade's guards, and intelligence interrogation also requires caution, so most must join the combat team. That is, this team of fewer than 20 people. The rapidly expanding population will inevitably bring a lot of work. Just getting acquainted with new comrades, recultivating tacit understanding, and inspecting personnel is enough to worry the original Anbu members. Not to mention that some here have a lot of information about Danzo in mind. After the Anbu's work began, many saw that Danzo had stopped doing anything and gradually integrated themselves into the new team, intending to expose his dirty deeds. Although Danzo destroyed most of the evidence, it's still very difficult to deal with. Yamato lost a lot of hair because of these things, and his already shapeless eyes grew even more dull and decaying. He couldn't make the decision on his own, so he could only talk to some squad leaders, gather and summarize the information and testimonies, and hand them over to Tsunade for the final decision. It simply had no effect. Tsunade acted as if she didn't see it and didn't move. Danzo acted as if nothing had happened. He went to the Hokage building early every day for work and, from time to time, paid his respects at the stone statue of the previous Hokage on Hokage Rock. Youth, like the morning sun, is warm and powerful. Konoha training grounds. Her face. As he approached, he looked at the three practitioners under the tree and called out, Ninji, Lee, Tenten, don't train yet, come and see this exciting sunrise, how beautiful and moving. Hyuga Niji, practicing gentle fist, said, thank you, but forget it, I still have to practice. Master Kai, Tianyan, listlessly, said, I'm not in the mood. Rock Lee, he turned his head twice, puzzled. He thought, I can appreciate the youthful beauty of the morning sun with Master Kai. He also wanted to do a morning exercise with Hyuga Niji. Just as he was puzzled, Might Guy's voice rang out, Plum. I'll always support you, Rock Lee burst into tears. Master Kai, with Might Guy's encouragement, he instantly stopped worrying. Follow your instincts and make your decision. In that case, Master Kai, practice with all your might and enjoy the beautiful dawn of youth. I want it all, Might Guy asked in surprise. Excellent decision. So, Lee, how are you going to achieve it? Rock Lee's gaze was firm. Of course, as long as I practice and climb the tree, I'll be able to enjoy the beautiful sunrise. Might Guy's eyes lit up, and he gave a thumbs up. Awesome. Lee, you're a hard-working genius. Thanks for your support, Rock Lee replied loudly. Then, while Hyuga Niji and Tenten looked confused, their feet touching the ground, he continued throwing punches and kicks while maintaining a jumping stance. As he began to climb the tree quickly, he shouted, "Hey! Ha! Hey! Ha!" He did it with great seriousness. He climbed the tree at full speed. With a light tap of his feet, the bark broke, and his body was quickly lifted into the air. He was about to reach Might Guy's height and could see the rising sun. But he forgot. As a genius with almost no talent in ninjutsu, he wasn't good at climbing chakra trees, an energy that most ninja mastered. So, under Might Guy's increasingly happy gaze, he continued jumping higher, and as he neared the top, a sharp click was heard. The delicate branches couldn't withstand his strength and snapped violently. Master Kai, let me. Bang! Rock Lee was distracted and fell headfirst to the ground. A faint crow's call seemed to be heard in the air. Might Guy's expression froze. As he approached, he turned his head as if nothing had happened and continued admiring the sunrise. A deep voice came from his mouth. Youth is like that, sometimes sweet, sometimes sour. Lee, keep going, Rock Lee. His head buried in the mud, percent, the sun slowly turns in the sky. After the morning exercise, during the break, Might Guy and his three companions sat together, exchanging their experiences in practice and talking about the beauty of youth. At one point, Might Guy finally noticed something was wrong with Cheyenne-chan's expression. Day by day, I noticed you seemed to be in a bad mood while practicing this morning. What happened? Hyuga Niji raised his head and looked at Might Guy speechlessly. I've been in a bad mood for almost 3 days. It's amazing that you only noticed this morning, Rock Lee interrupted him. Wait, Mr. Kai, although I'm not sure, I can make a bold guess based on my observations. I've come to a bold conclusion. Cheyenne-chan, I think you've been in a bad mood since last night. He looked at Cheyenne-chan expectantly. Cheyenne-chan, am I right? Day by day, Hinata Niji. Chapter 344, Itchy Hands Every Day. Swoosh. Has it really been that long? Lee, your observations are much sharper than Master's. You're such a kid, Rock Lee's teeth flashed. Might Guy turned his gaze to Tianbian and said, So, Tianbian, as a group, can you tell us why you're dissatisfied? Tianbian pursed his lips, and under the gaze of several, he didn't hide anything and spoke frankly. Actually, it's nothing, it's my fault, I don't know. When I was away, Tsunagakure held a joint exam and I missed it because I went to practice with Musashi-sensei. Now, practically everyone has become a chunin, even Zio Lee, Rock Lee. I'm only a Jinan, so I'm a little dissatisfied. Swoosh, Might Guy nodded to show his understanding. Cheyenne-chan, I understand what you're thinking, but don't be discouraged. You can take the chunin exams whenever you want. But youth is so precious. Instead of being sad about something like this, why not train with passion? How about we run around the village? I promise I'll cheer you up. Hearing this, Tenten's eyes twitched slightly. She looked at Might Guy and said with a forced smile, Mr. Guy, I think this is unnecessary. I just thought about it. You're right, there's no reason to be sad about something like this. I'm fine now, Cheyenne-chan, Rock Lee said excitedly. I think Mr. Kai's suggestion is simply brilliant. Let's practice together with enthusiasm. Cheyenne-chan, and no, Rock Lee, if you dedicate all your energy to training, believe me, your efforts won't be in vain. You'll definitely catch up to Niji and me, Rock Lee said, expressing his admiration for her great emotional intelligence. He gave Tenten a thumbs up and an encouraging smile. Watching the enthusiastic Chunin Lee lock, he felt his heart flutter and his hands unconsciously clench. To make his behavior more reasonable and logical, Hyuga Niji spoke up. Okay, Lee, Hyuga Niji said calmly, stop joking around. Even though we've reached the Chunin rank, it doesn't mean we're stronger than Tenten. He turned to look at Cheyenne-chan, his expression concealing a hint of complexity. If we really fight, you and I won't have much of a chance of winning. What? Rock Lee was a little surprised. He looked at Hyuga Niji, not expecting the person he'd always considered a target to say something like that. But then, with his great emotional intelligence, he suddenly understood the other person's profound meaning. They were teammates in the same class. Shianshin was still a delicate girl. How could I be so complacent in front of my teammates just because I was the first to become a chunin? I shouldn't. This is very inappropriate. Ninji, you're right, Rock Lee said, looking at Hyuga Niji gratefully. There were 3 points of recognition and 3 of understanding in his eyes. I understand, it was my fault. Tenten simply missed the chunin exams due to lack of time. In terms of strength, she might be stronger than me, Shianshin. In that case, let's run together enthusiastically. Hyuga Niji didn't understand Rock Lee's strained expression. Hearing Rock Lee's invitations over and Tenten's repeated refusals, he thought about what had happened last night in the Hyuga family territory. Last night, the Grand Elder's voice said. However, his tone, which was usually dignified and calm, had become a little nervous at that moment. Normally, the Grand Elder, as the most powerful person in the family after the clan leader, always seemed calm and indifferent. He always appeared confident when directing clan affairs and making suggestions, and he had never been as nervous as he was at that moment. A few seconds later, Hyuga Niji heard Hyuga Hayashi's voice. Just like before, the Great Elder, but things are different now. The Anbu started a civil war in the village in broad daylight. Ryo, that guy almost killed Danzo. Now, Root has completely disappeared. How can it be the same as before, he asks. A person who has been at the center of power in Konoha since the second Hokage, possessing a ruthless personality and immense strength. The root that dominates the village is out of control, terrorizing the 5 major ninja villages. Among the major ninja clans of the village, with the exception of the Sarutobi clan and the destroyed Uchiha clan, there is no one who doesn't fear him. Not to mention that the reason for the destruction of the rebellious and tyrannical Uchiha clan is also inseparable from the other part. Although the Hyuga clan claims to be the strongest ninja clan in Konoha, they must be careful when dealing with this type of person. It could be said that, aside from the Hokage, there was no one in the village more powerful than him. Even after the third Hokage's death, the fear of the leading families towards Danzo surpassed even that of the Hokage. Yet, such a person was blocking the village gate in broad daylight. Without warning or negotiation, Suzumiya Musashi brought an Anbu team and openly appeared at the gate. The outrageous thing is, we won. If only they heard that news, they wouldn't even believe it. But it wasn't just rumors. That day, they heard with their own ears and saw with their own eyes the tremors and roars that resonated throughout Konoha, the majestic blue aura, and the clouds howling in the sky outside the village. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 345, Hyuga Niji's Thoughts. It was a horrifying scene, and even now, recalling it, the Grand Elder still shudders. That's why he was so frightened and pale. After a brief check, he hurried to find Hinata Hayashi, his tone far more respectful than usual. Danzo had been defeated, Root had disbanded, and the Anbu had grown stronger. Now that there was a young, powerful civilian ninja in the village, what should the Hyuga clan do? He looked at Hyuga Hayashi, the patriarch of the Hyuga family, awaiting an answer. Hyuga Hayashi undoubtedly understood the Grand Elder's change in attitude. He hesitated for a while and finally said, I said it's the same as before, she is loyal to the Hokage. As he spoke, Hyuga Hayashi looked at the Grand Elder with a firm gaze, his tone both emphatic and puzzled. Why be nervous? Hinata has never done anything wrong to the village or the Hokage. From now on, just follow Tsunade-sama's orders as always. No matter how strong Suzumiya Musashi becomes, he is still a member of the village and of the Hokage. As he spoke, Hyuga Hayashi looked at the Grand Elder with a firm gaze, his tone both emphatic and puzzled. If the Anbu grows stronger, the Hokage's power will also grow, which isn't bad for us. Don't worry. Calm? How can I be calm? The old man had something on his mind, but he couldn't say it aloud. Because there are things he knows that Hinata Hayashi doesn't know. As the Grand Elder of the Hyuga clan, he used to have few worries. He could often make decisions on his own. He acted as a detached keeper on minor clan matters, without even having to inform Hyuga Hayashi. For example, when Orochimaru attacked Konoha, He led Kumagakure to search for Suzumiya Musashi and was defeated. Since the village was in chaos at the time, no one noticed, so upon his return, he secretly healed his wounds to maintain his dignity, without telling Hinata Hayashi. He had thought that he would have a chance to exact revenge on the other party in the future, or that when they developed and rose in the village, he would use the Hyuga clan's influence to secretly trap them. But now he didn't even dare tell Hinata Hayashi. He could only silently pray, hoping that Suzumiya Musashi had forgotten what happened a few years ago. After all, Hyuga Niji wasn't very close to the other party, and it was he who was defeated, while the other party suffered no losses. Just when he was feeling extremely confused, Hinata Hayashi, who he appeared calm, but in reality, he was deeply moved. He suddenly fixed his gaze, the blood vessels on both sides of his forehead bulging instantly, and looked outside. A sudden impulse surged through him. The Grand Elder was also surprised. His heart trembling, he panicked and retreated behind Hinata Hayashi. He mobilized his chakra, instantly opening his Byakugan and looking outside the door. Then, the two saw Hyuga Niji with a complicated expression. Patriarch, Grand Elder, Hyuga Niji didn't hide his expression or pretend he hadn't heard anything. He paused and said, "The training is over, I'm here to say goodbye." Seeing that it was Hyuga Niji, they both breathed a sigh of relief. But then, Hyuga Hayashi frowned, his eyes wide, his veins bulging, his face glared sternly. On the other hand, he felt a flicker of anger. HMPH, there are no rules, if you don't dare inform me next time, Hinata Hayashi said somewhat angrily. Although Hyuga Niji hadn't needed to inform him before when he came to visit after training. This didn't diminish his ability to take advantage of the situation. "Just remember to inform us next time," the Great Elder suddenly interrupted, cutting short Hinata Hayashi's anger. The veins around his eyes disappeared, and his face filled with a sad expression. "How was your practice with Hinata-san?" It's fine." Hyuga Niji wasn't used to the other person's smile. "Miss Hinata is always improving." Good, the elder continued smiling and said, "Thanks to you, otherwise, Miss Hinata wouldn't have progressed so quickly. Ninji, you should also take care of yourself and not delay your own training." Hinata Rizu, "Hyuga Niji, I understand. Thank you for your concern, Grand Elder." "Very well, go back." The elder waved his hand and said, "Don't be so clumsy next time. The future of our family cannot be separated from young people with exceptional talents like yours." Hyuga Niji's mind was full of questions. Under the Grand Elder's kind gaze, he slowly left. As he walked, he seemed to have discovered something. His initially hesitant mind suddenly cleared. He took long strides and gradually moved away. What he didn't know was that, after he left, Hinata Hayashi couldn't help but ask the Grand Elder with some annoyance, "Why are you interrupting me, you, clan leader?" The Grand Elder's kind expression disappeared, and his face became complicated. "Suzumiya Musashi has a disciple," Hinata Hayashi frowned. "What does this have to do with you interrupting me?" The Grand Elder, "She's Niji's classmate and teammate. The relationship, it's extraordinary." Hinata Rizu, she snapped back to reality. Hyuga Niji refocused his attention and glanced at Tenten, who was arguing with Rock Lee. A flicker of envy flickered in his heart. To him, the probability of that kind of emotion manifesting was very low. Even being from a minor family, he would always be inferior to her. Although she was still young, she had just been promoted to Chunin. But he had his own pride in his heart. What could Hyuga Hinata do as the head of the family? Under her own power, she could only retreat step by step. What if I couldn't follow the teachings of Bagwazang and Hushin? With my own strength, I could also achieve what my predecessors had researched. I dared to tread the path that all the Hyuga geniuses of the past had trod again. As for the ninjas of the same generation in the village, they weren't a concern at all. Whether it was Ino Shikacho, Sarutobi, or Shimura, they were the so-called elites of the great families. They paled in comparison to him. Even a hard-working genius like Rock Lee practiced desperately just to be able to catch up. But now, he discovered he was envious. He envied Shianshin, who became that man's disciple without much effort. Suzumiya Musashi. Once, the other side was a little man whom the villagers called mentally ill, waiter, and green-clothed freak. Until today, he had become one of the most powerful ninjas in the village. As strong as Danzo, as strong as Root, they crumbled before the opponent's power. What value did the remaining ninja clans have in the eyes of the other side? Even the patriarch and the great elder of the Hyuga family secretly feared the other side's ferocity. The rest of the Sarutobi clan, the Shimura clan, the Yamanaka clan, the Nara clan, the Akimichi clan, the Aburane clan. I'm afraid they were no exception. Such an existence made him envious, yearn, and admiring. The reason for it all was simply the power of the other side. The absolute power contained in those muscles, fists, and feet. Before such power, the roots buckled. Under such power, the mighty Hyuga clan with its long history lost its pride. Hyuga Niji only felt the desire for power in his heart grow ever hotter, like a fireball, consuming his soul. Chapter 346 Hyuga Niji, I don't want to be a gigolo. How many years? To prove his worth, to rid himself of the regrets and pain of so many years ago, and to be able to hold his head high before the clan, he pushed himself too hard and took on too much pressure. To earn Hinata Hayashi's admiration. To make the people of the main branch realize that he, Hyuga Niji, a rare genius in the main branch and the hope for the future of the Hyuga clan. He never achieved it. No matter how hard he tried, no matter how much he progressed, in the eyes of the Grand Elder and the Hyuga clan leader Hayashi, he remained the same. The Hyuga branch, in contrast to the main branch, held the power of life and death. They were not of the same clan, but merely subordinates. However, when the blue flames descended upon the village and destroyed its roots with their unparalleled power, the situation suddenly changed. The Grand Elder's change in attitude was abrupt and took everyone by surprise. The long-awaited respectful treatment was finally obtained in a ludicrous way. The reason for all of this was, in reality, the relationship between Shianchan and me. To outsiders, Hyuga Niji is a genius the Hyuga clan rarely sees in a century. He's the dream man of many young women and the object of many male peers' affections. To the family's upper echelons, Hyuga Niji is a member of the branch family with decent talent. He's a good friend of Suzumiya, the dismissed Anbu captain, the one responsible for the destruction of Root, a direct descendant of the fifth Hokage, Tsunade, a powerful cage-level ninja, and Musashi's only current disciple. Thinking about all this, Hyuga Niji simply felt it was ridiculous and absurd. Is this the caliber of the Hyuga family, the largest family in Konoha with a millennia-old heritage? He could even foresee that as long as he maintained this relationship with Suzumiya Musashi, Hyuga Hayashi and the Grand Elder's attitude toward him would never be the same. Even more so, if we can go a step further with Shianchan. At that point, he would receive treatment within the clan no less favorable than that of the main family. This is strength. This is power. Power so strong it could crush all obstacles and shackles. The main family, the branch family, the Byakugan of the ninja world, the great clans of Konoha, all glory was worthless under that man's fists and feet. After realizing this, Hyuga Niji felt something break in his heart. This thing once bound him and made him feel like a mountain of pressure. Now that he had lost it, he felt a little panicked. He suddenly felt the need to draw a line between himself and Shianchan, him and Shianchan. Doing so would only make him feel like his dignity had escaped from a scorching mountain and was hiding under an even larger one. Subconsciously, he even wanted to find Sai, who had been part of his team during the Chunin exams. Accept the persuasive suggestion you had always rejected and use your own strength and talent in exchange for the potential future the other party spoke of. He didn't want the Hyuga family's ridiculous reputation or Suzumiya Musashi's support. He would rather rely on himself, little by little, with his own life and blood, to build the dignity that belonged only to him, Hyuga Niji. The thought stopped abruptly. Hyuga Niji suddenly gave a bitter smile. Sai. Ah. The roots are gone. The Lord Danzo mentioned by the other party is now at work and will leave on time at the Hokage building. Niji's bitter smile startled Tenten. She leaned forward and asked Hyuga Niji with her large, bright eyes. Hyuga Niji regained his composure, looked at Tenten, and unconsciously leaned back. Morning exercise is over, shall we have breakfast together? Shianchan's eyes reflected some anticipation. No, Hyuga Niji exclaimed. Shianchan, Greek letter sigma, degree Cyrillic letter de degree. Shianchan's eyes trembled, and resentment quickly filled his large eyes. What happened, Niji? He didn't understand why Hyuga Niji had suddenly become so cruel to him. Hyuga Niji also suddenly realized that his attitude was wrong. The thoughts he had just had made him subconsciously want to distance himself from Shianchan. I thought you must be hungry after your morning exercise, so I asked you to have breakfast. Did I provoke you? As he spoke, Carmen watched Hyuga Niji's reaction closely with her large eyes. It seemed like he might burst into tears at any moment if the answer was wrong. Hinata Niji, ouch! Why do I feel like my teeth are starting to hurt? What a strong smell. Rock Lee said this while eating the steaming breakfast he bought every day. He ate and drank enough. His body felt extremely satisfied after regaining energy. While rubbing his stomach, Rock Lee asked Might Guy, Master Kai, how much progress have you made in practicing Musashi Senpai's 8 gates? Would it be possible to open the 8th gate? Might Guy lifted his head from his bowl and said, Lee, the last gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu is different from the previous ones. It's not measured by whether it can be activated or not. Opening the 8 gates of death, the gates of ninjutsu not only require rigorous training, but also the determination to sacrifice one's life. Rock Lee's eyes turned serious. The determination to sacrifice your life, that's right. Generally, for a ninja practicing the 8 gates, the 7th, the Shuking Gate, is the limit they can reach. Opening the final gate of death means sacrificing one's own life to obtain supreme power beyond life and fight the enemy. Hyuga Niji narrowed his eyes, while Tenten put down her bowl and chopsticks with a worried expression. Master Kai, if you say that, if you open the 8 gates, even you will be able to. She stopped speaking abruptly. Might Guy nodded slowly. Xianshin was silent for a moment and then said, in that case, I hope Master never opens the final gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu. Xianshin. Might Guy's tone suddenly turned serious. He said earnestly, as ninjas, we must have this awareness, dying in battle isn't sad, especially for a taijutsu ninja like Musashi. If I manage to open the last gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu during the battle, I'll be able to stop the enemy and protect the important people. This is an honor and shouldn't be sad. Hearing this, Hyuga Niji and Tenten's eyes flickered, not quite understanding, but Rock Lee's eyes shone, and it was clear that he longed for it with all his heart. Master Kai, so, if I'm willing to sacrifice my life, can I open the last gate of the 8 gates? This, Might Guy scratched his head and then spoke, shattering Rock Lee's beautiful fantasy. Cherry, I'm talking about 2 conditions, the determination to sacrifice one's life and arduous practice. With your current state, you may find it difficult to open the 6th gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu. If it's the 7th, I'm afraid you'll have to pay a high price. Price? As for the final death gate, Might Guy paused and told the truth. With your current body, you won't be able to open the death gate. It can only be called suicide. Chapter 347 Reactions from Various Countries. Really, Rock Lee felt a little disappointed, but he soon recovered his fighting spirit. Master Kai, don't worry, I'll practice hard. I'll try to catch up to you and Musashi Senpai. Might Guy's serious expression disappeared, and he smiled. Lee, you'd better do your best. Judging from Musashi's performance, he should have the ability to open the last gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu, just like me. If he really does open the last gate of the 8 gates of ninjutsu, the power he'll create will surpass your imagination. Master Kai, Hyuga Niji, who had remained silent all this time, suddenly chimed in and asked, in terms of physical abilities, who is better, the current Musashi Senpai or you, Master Kai? Ha ha ha, Might Guy laughed loudly. This kind of thing, ha ha. After discreetly glancing around and discovering that no one else was there, Might Guy leaned back slightly. After all, it was I who taught Musashi. If we really want to compete, I won't disappoint you, Master. Hyuga Niji, Might Guy responded, but it seemed as if he hadn't answered. Shaking his head, Hyuga Niji wasn't Rock Lee after all. Being the most emotionally intelligent person on Team 3, he decided not to ask any more questions. In the blink of an eye, so many years have passed, and Musashi's taijutsu has reached a level that is no less than mine. Unfortunately, that Kakashi is on a mission. If I were still in the village, I'd love to summon him and Musashi immediately and organize a junior competition. Rock Lee, Master Kai, what about me? What about me? Can I join? Lee, you still need to practice more. While Suzumiya Musashi was imprisoned and not allowed to leave, and the people of Konoha were still slowly processing this incident, various forces in the ninja world also received the news one after another. This battle involving Suzumiya Musashi took place in broad daylight. Not only did Enbu members participate, but it was also witnessed by ninjas and civilians of the village, so the news could not be hidden. Suzumiya Musashi led a dark team to crush the root, led by Danzo, the darkness of the ninja world. The elite of Konoha underwent a reorganization. What do you say? The minister bowed and replied, Your Majesty, his name is Suzumiya Musashi, A ninja without a family? Daimyo lifted his eyelids slightly. Really? Have you checked the records? I have. There are no errors. The other party was punished for a month by the 5th Hokage. Princess Tsunade, Hokage. This confinement should be only a minor punishment, for others to see. The daimyo gently fluttered his folding fan and, after a moment, said calmly, very well, I understand. Let's leave it at that for now. The minister asked again, Your Majesty, shouldn't we do something? There's no need, the daimyo replied. The land of fire is vast and resource-rich, and Konoha has many talented people. It's only natural that some geniuses will appear. More than 10 years ago, young Minato Namikaze did the same thing. There's nothing surprising about it, since he's a direct descendant of Tsunade. There's no need to worry about him. Let's not discuss this further. Let's listen to the music first. Go and bring the dancers for me. Yes, my lord, the land of earth. The daimyo carefully studied the information in his hands. He read each word, frowning, with a solemn look of concern for the country and its people. Konoha. Suzumiya Musashi, he murmured to himself as he read, and when he finished reading the information in his hand, he began to reflect. After a while, he asked, Does Inoki know the news? The minister, who was there, paused and then said, Your Majesty, this is the information sent by the Tsuchikage. Oh, the daimyo of the land of earth suddenly understood. Then, he looked at the minister earnestly and pronounced word for word, I said to remember it and send it to Inoki later, cough, cough. As for the matters related to the new and powerful ninja of Konoha, Suzumiya Musashi, I have taken the following measures. First, we must learn from past experiences and lessons, summarize the experience of previous Tsuchikage in dealing with talented young ninja from enemy countries, draw conclusions from one case, and focus on Suzumiya Musashi of Konoha. Second, we must strengthen the accountability of the Tsuchikage and the ninja clans. We must coordinate the Tsuchikage's direct lineage, intelligence personnel, and elite forces of the major ninja clans to work together to gather comprehensive information on the Suzumiya Musashi incident. Third, we must strengthen the effectiveness of our work. 18th, well, that's it, send it to Inoki as soon as possible. Ask him to follow my instructions and combine them with the latest information to formulate effective plans for dealing with the ninja of Konoha. The requirements are, first, we cannot allow Konoha to grow too large, and we must devise viable countermeasures for the frequent presence of talented ninja in Konoha. Second, we must be mindful of the influence of the great nations and not undermine the land of earth. Third, we must focus on development, and while we leverage the strengths of the major ninja clans, we must not neglect the village's development. A system for cultivating talented ninjas must be established for me. The number of talented ninjas in the land of earth must surpass that of Konoha. Fourth. Half an hour later, the daimyo of the land of earth took a sip of tea to moisten his dry throat, looked at the ministers, whose hands were beginning to cramp, and, with a slight imperceptibility, said, Well, that's all for now. Go and implement it. Hurry up. Yes, Your Majesty, the minister replied in a hopeless voice and hurriedly left the daimyo's mansion. The land of water. Tisk 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 tisk, the daimyo of the land of water clicked his tongue as he looked at the information in his hand. After a moment, he threw it down and complained to the waiter at his side, Look at other people's ninja villages, geniuses everywhere, look at those people in the village hidden in the sand. They're a real headache. The waiter shuddered and replied cautiously, Your Majesty, you're right, it's outrageous. That useless Luosha is just a stupid pig and a stupid cow. The waiter didn't even dare to raise his head. Oh, yes, yes. Chapter 348 Akatsuki Online Meeting. Such a reaction obviously enraged the daimyo. But he was too lazy to get angry, so he waved his hand and said, All right, put an end to this mess. If you have any missions in the future, you can hire more Konoha ninja. Although the price is a bit higher, it's for good reason. As long as they were useful, it's fine. The land of thunder was terrified. They hurriedly knelt on the ground with their buttocks in the air, not daring to move. The flying fragments cut my skin and blood flowed, but I still didn't dare to move. Out, the daimyo waved his hand angrily, and everyone retreated, holding their breath, as if they had been pardoned. Behind them stood a dark figure, resembling an iron tower, standing before the daimyo. The daimyo's eyes suddenly turned, looking at the black figure, and he said angrily, Calm down. How can I calm down? Lay some black light, tell me. Haguang Layer lowered his head and said nothing more. Devastated. The Emperor Viper Clan, once an ally, had also betrayed the contract. With such a series of blows, it was understandable that the daimyo was furious. Especially when the other side discovered that the enemy was still lurking in Konoha. Barring any unforeseen events, the daimyo, already in his twilight years, might have to die first. Suzumiya Musashi, Suzumiya Takizo, I want him dead. The Lightning Nation daimyo's eyes blazed with murderous intent. He wished that Higuanglei-san would immediately set out and lead the Lightning Nation's most powerful force to kill that audacious young man. Unfortunately, some things cannot be accomplished with mere imagination. Higuanglei-san, who used to be so arrogant, now stood silently in the same spot. He didn't immediately seek a fight as before, as if he didn't sense the daimyo's fury. In truth, he wasn't sure either. A ninja from another ninja village, even a renowned ninja from the 5 major countries, under normal circumstances, would have the courage to step forward and challenge someone. Even if he wasn't certain of certain death, he wouldn't be afraid. But this time was different. That man had killed Blacklight Lacey 3 years ago. Not long ago, he had killed Blacklight Lair, who was stronger than him. The deaths of both of them inevitably instilled fear in Higuanglei-san's heart. 2 of his fellow Blacklight Guard members had been defeated one after the other. He didn't believe he was much stronger than them. If he took their place, he would probably suffer the same fate. Eliminating Blacklight, destroying the base, and severing the Emperor Viper clan's ties with the Thunder Realm, the reflected power was terrifying to contemplate. Higuanglei-san wanted to play dead, but the daimyo wouldn't allow it. Daimyo glared at him with red eyes and said in a sinister voice, Lei-san, if I ask you to kill this person, do whatever is necessary. Do you have a confidence? Black Lightning Thunder 3, he hesitated for a moment, then bowed and said, Your Majesty, I am willing to do everything in my power to get rid of this man for you. Hearing this, daimyo's eyes twitched, and the anger on his face finally dissipated somewhat. Black Light Thunder 3 was now the most powerful force around him. What he had just said was merely a test of anger. He didn't want him to assassinate Suzumiya Musashi. The other party was the only Blacklight left, and if the Emperor Viper clan betrayed the alliance, he too might be the last Blacklight. Now he could no longer afford to lose the other person. He suppressed most of his anger and said in a grave voice, Forget it, you have more important things to do, so let's put this aside for now. Yes, Your Majesty, Higuanglei-san replied with profound relief. Fighting that Suzumiya Musashi? By comparison, being dominant in the land of thunder and bullying the weak from time to time was the life he desired. Although it didn't feel good to pretend to be a grandson in front of the king, at least it was better than death. Besides, everyone told me that Higuanglei seemed to have had a lot of unspeakable things with the daimyo's concubines. He wasn't sure if it was true or not, but he always felt a chill. In the middle of the night, he awoke from a dream, as if a feather were constantly tickling his heart, and tossed and turned in bed, unable to fall back asleep. Even if he really had to die someday, he mustn't leave any regrets. Sir, if there's nothing else, I'll take my leave now. Wait, daimyo suddenly summoned Higuanglei-san, thought for a moment, and said, Well, do me a favor, gather Suzumiya Musashi's past battle records and send them to the daimyo of the 5 major countries. You can exaggerate a little. Black Lightning Thunder 3 suddenly raised his head and said worriedly, Your Majesty, if Black Lightning Thunder 4's story gets out, it could damage your reputation. What a loss. Daimyo snorted coldly. You're going to die? Are you still afraid of looking bad? Do as I say and exaggerate Suzumiya Musashi's strength? I don't think these guys can just stand idly by while the Fire Country's ninja village grows, as you command. In the dark cave, intense chakra fluctuations filled the air, mixed with malevolence, a deathly silence, and rising vibrations. Chakra-condensed projections appeared in the cave, their radiant power becoming one of the few lights illuminating it. When the last projection appeared, everyone was stunned, then gazed at a slender, gentle figure. Alright, now that everyone is here, let's begin the discussion. Let's discuss recent achievements and the next phase of tasks. Conan looked around and said, As mentioned before, the number of tasks entrusted to us by major countries remains good, and the commissions we receive are also sufficient to meet the organization's development needs. Furthermore, I'd like to express my special gratitude to Mr. Kakuzu. You've completed the most tasks, and the organization's development is inextricably linked to your assistance. Kakuzu heard this and said calmly, It's just my job. Let's talk about the next mission. Okay, Zayatanin nodded and continued, Now, Akatsuki's mission is to capture the tailed beast with all our might. Starting today, we will gradually reduce the number of requests we accept from major countries. While ensuring the organization's continued operation, our primary objective will be capturing the tailed beasts. Remember, our target is all tailed beasts, whether they are unsupervised or sealed as Jinchuriki. They must be captured one by one. Those who failed in the past must be captured again. As she said this, Zayatanin's gaze lingered for a moment on the figure wielding the scythe. Chapter 349, Some Opinions on the Capture of the Tailed Beasts and the Attack on Suzumiya Musashi. The failure she was referring to was the recent one, when Hiden and Kakuzu failed to capture Shigeaki Nanao. Kakuzu was also involved. However, aside from capturing Nanao this time, Kakuzu completed other tasks with great efficiency, so Konan deliberately omitted it and simply stared at Hiden. Hey. What do you think I'm trying to say? Under Konan's glare, Fidouin felt displeased. If you have something to say, please speak frankly. It's just that we failed to capture Nanao last time. It's not a big deal. We had our reasons for that incident, Zayatanin said coldly. Failure is failure. No reason can turn failure into success. Hiden, don't tell me such profound truths. The last capture mission failed. It wasn't my fault. A pervert suddenly appeared during the mission. Zayatanin looked up slightly. Really? Very powerful. Fidouin gritted his teeth and said, he's not powerful. He's one of those perverts, like a madman. Mr. Kakuzu and I hadn't even reacted when his deranged attack disrupted our rhythm. Zayatanin asked, you mean if I let you prepare properly, you'll be able to defeat the other group? Fidouin choked. After a moment, he said, well, that's not what I meant. What I mean is that Guy's methods were very much aimed at the two of us. That's what caused the mission to fail. I see. Zayatanin was a little impatient. You mean you're not to blame, Hiden? Yes. I don't know what Musashi ate to grow so big. His physical abilities are just bizarre, carrying the opponent's summoned beast. If he is in danger, Musashi should appear again. So I suggest that if you're not confident you can defeat the Seven Tails Jinchuriki in a short amount of time, it's best to let ninjas specializing in physical abilities go on the capture mission. Wait, Zayatanin suddenly interrupted and asked, what did you say that person's name was? How? Musashi, Hiden asked. It seems Nanabe and the dog call him that. Wait a moment, Zayatanin said, and the illusory projection flickered a few times and disappeared, leaving several people looking at each other in confusion. Luckily, they didn't have to wait long. After a while, Zayatanin's projection reappeared. This time, her expectations weren't as cold as before. I just checked the news. The person you mentioned just received new information. The same disdain as before, Suzumiya Musashi, the Konoha ninja. It's understandable that he defeated me. Damn Konoha ninja, Fidouin cursed first and then asked, what else? Is there any other information, for example, weaknesses, personality, whether or not he has hemorrhoids? Fidouin stopped. I almost said what I felt. Kakuzu, to the side, also looked at Zayatanin curiously. Konan said, Suzumiya Musashi, about 22 years old, born into a poor family in Konoha. As a young man, I ran away back to Konoha and was selected for Project Aoba. I lived through the Third Ninja World War and had no combat history. He once learned taijutsu from the Konoha ninja Might Guy. After entering the Ninja Academy, he formally practiced ninjutsu. According to intelligence, he is capable of using multi-attribute ninjutsu of the fire, lightning, and water styles. After graduating, he joined the ninja team. During a border mission, he was suspected of single-handedly murdering an Iwagakure Jonin. Upon returning to the village, he resorted to Konoha's forbidden technique, the Eight Gates Ninjutsu, to fight the rogue ninja Uchiha Itachi. As she said this, Konan paused, and everyone on the field immediately turned their heads and observed a shadow, Uchiha Itachi. The latter displayed no expression on his face at that moment, half of his face hidden under his hood and collar, and showed no particular reaction. Konan continued, he rescued two Uchiha orphans. A few years later, he appeared on a mission in the Land of Waves and killed a powerful man from the Land of Thunder. According to an unknown source, his strength has reached the level of a Kage. 3 years later, he killed another Kage-level warrior in the maritime area of the Land of Thunder. Not long ago, he led the Konoha Anbu team to destroy the base route, reorganize the Anbu and suppress Danzo. Overall assessment, a ninja who has reached Kage level in physical abilities. The level of other methods, such as the 5 elements escape technique, is unknown. After these words were spoken, Everyone fell silent for a moment. As a member of Akatsuki, each of those present was one of the strongest men in the ninja world. One could even say that, on average, they all surpassed cage level. But even so, I couldn't help but be surprised to hear Zayanen's news. A shadow-level genius 22 years old. Those two words alone are already astonishing. There are countless geniuses in the ninja world, but they probably wouldn't even come close to him no matter how hard they tried. However, that wasn't the only thing that surprised them. A civilian ninja with no bloodline limit reaches cage level through physical abilities. Such a description is extremely rare in the ninja world. They even struggled to imagine how a civilian ninja with no bloodline limit or the support of a large family could allow him to practice such terrifying physical skills. Could he be another Minato Namikaze? No. Although geniuses like Minato Namikaze are rare, they have appeared in the ninja world before. But this Suzumiya Musashi is a physical martial artist. It's simply strange. Deidara couldn't help but break the silence. Is this a mad practitioner? It's as if he's practicing all the time, except for eating and sleeping. Zayanen turned her head, looked at him, and nodded. You're right. According to the information, this person only practices most of the time. The hunched scorpion asked hoarsely. Zayanen, how come your information is so detailed? We even have information from more than 10 years ago? That someone is deliberately targeting me. Uchiha's eyes flashed. Intentionally targeting? Well, that's enough for intelligence first. Let's talk about the mission. Preparations to capture the tailed beast must begin now. Scorpion and Deidara and Itachi are a team. Itachi and Kisame are a team. Hidden should stay in the group with Kokuzu-sen. The hunt for the Jinchuriki begins with the two tails this time. As for Nanao, after a few minutes, Konan paused. She looked at everyone on the field. Considering that Suzumiya Musashi might appear, neither Hidden nor Kokuzu would be able to break through the defense. Scorpion and Deidara, it seemed, could barely manage it. Deidara's explosion was quite good, but she didn't know if Scorpion's puppet could withstand the opponent's physical abilities. Of course, the ones she felt most optimistic about were Uchiha Itachi and Hoshigaki Kisame. Logically, the powerful Sharingan was the perfect match for this type of physical ninja. Moreover, Hoshigaki Kisame was also quite strong in all aspects. The combination of both made it very likely that they would defeat the opponent. Itachi, Kisame, we can't. Before Kisame could, Uchiha Itachi interrupted him as he spoke. Chapter 350 Uchiha Itachi, no, I have something to do. Kisame, yes, I have something to do too. Zayanen was stunned. Wasn't it? This was the first time she'd ever heard such a response from Uchiha Itachi. He'd even given her a note telling her to leave. Seeing Uchiha Itachi's determination, she turned to look at Hoshigaki Kisame, hoping he could persuade her. She had a feeling that, given Hoshigaki Kisame's personality, he wouldn't refuse such a mission. Ghost, no, Hoshigaki Kisame interrupted her as well. In his surprised expression, Hoshigaki Kisame seemed to feel that those two words were too harsh. He composed his words and, after a moment, gave his reasons. It's not very convenient, Zayanen, Cyrillic letter deck. What's wrong with you two? Hoshigaki Kisame said. Mr. Itachi has something and needs me to be there. Are you sure you're not afraid of fighting? The words made Zayanen's stomach churn, but she didn't speak them aloud. What she said seemed too rude and didn't foster unity. If it affected unity, it would be difficult to lead the team. In that case, Zayanen thought for a moment and said, let's put the Nanato matter aside for now, capture the other tailed beasts first. Any further questions? Naturally, there was no problem. After receiving their assignments, they said their goodbyes and left. Konan only stopped Uchiha Itachi. Seeing that no one else remained in the field, Konan carefully chose her words and said slowly, Itachi, why did you refuse the mission to capture Nanao? Uchiha Itachi's expression remained unchanged. I've already explained it to you. Zayanen smiled. Naturally, she wouldn't believe those words. Is there any reason why you don't want to face that Suzumiya Musashi? Uchiha Itachi remained silent. Seeing this, Zayanen understood. Silence is the norm. May I ask what the reason is? You know about the other's abilities, right? Zayanen asked, then laughed. She felt her assumption was a bit of an exaggeration. As one of the leaders of Akatsuki, she knew very well what kind of ninja Uchiha Itachi was. Young and powerful. His extraordinary talent and cold yet rational temperament had allowed him to perform exceptionally well on missions in recent years. No task could perplex him, and no opponent could frighten him. Orochimaru, a former Akatsuki member who defected with a Kui ring, also failed to gain any advantage under his opponent's control. How could someone like that fear such a young taijutsu ninja? Uchiha Itachi remained silent. Under the illusory projection, Zayanin couldn't see, and her cheeks contracted slightly. Seeing that he didn't say anything, Zayanin nodded. The other didn't want to confront him because of their old friendship and connection to the same village. Bond, friendship. Since the other party wasn't willing to accept it, Zayanin wouldn't force him. Alright, Itachi, that's all for now. I'll let others capture the 7 tails, including the 9 tails later. Just complete your task. Uchiha Itachi finally spoke. Thank you, Zayanin smiled and said, although I don't sense gratitude in your tone. It's the first time I've heard you say that. Their shadows vanished from the cave. A few minutes later, in a dark place, Konan faced the thin Nagato and informed her of what had happened. You have received the mission and will begin capturing the tailed beasts immediately. Okay, Nagato said hoarsely. Behind him were several thick, long tubes connected to his back, and even the slightest movement seemed to require enormous effort. Nagato said, it's the same if we let others capture Nanabe. Suzumiya Musashi might not always arrive on time. Capturing the 9 tails must also be part of the plan, Konan said. The 9-tailed fox is in Konoha, although Konoha isn't as strong as it once was. Capturing the Kyuubi won't be easy. It's alright. Nagato looked up, his hair covered one eye, while the other remained silent and indifferent. If you don't do things right, I'll take action, Nagato. Konan looked worried. Your body isn't fit to go out and fight. There's no such thing as fit or unfit, Nagato said. Compared to what we're doing, a mere body is nothing to be ashamed of. If I die, you'll take Yahiko's and my place and complete the rest. Compared to the actions of the main forces, the reactions of the ninja villages and the forces of the smaller countries were much calmer. Aside from sighing at the sheer number of talented people in the great ninja village, yearning for the majesty of cage-level strongmen, they only ate when they had to and slept when they had to. They must. They are just small fish in the ninja world. No matter how big a ninja village grows, it doesn't seem to matter much to them. Eventually, they will have to submit to the big ninja village and become an ordinary beast of burden. However, the imprisoned Suzumiya Musashi knew nothing of this. He was in trouble again. Maoi's grim face. Suzumiya Musashi thought that after so many years, the other party had given up on their original intentions, but when he was confined at home, Yuzuki Yugeo started harassing him again. Well, according to Maoi Yugeo, she came to visit him. But the frequency of the visits is too much? Yuzuki Yugeo? Suzumiya Musashi stopped practicing taijutsu and looked at Yuzuki Yugeo, who was holding a well-mannered looking bottle of soup not far away, with a headache. His face went blank. Why are you here again? Maoi Yuzayan took the hot soup in her hand and said sincerely, Captain, look what you said. I came to visit you. I don't need you to visit me, Suzumiya Musashi said. Besides, I'm not your captain anymore. What are you talking about? Mao Yuzayan said. Once you're captain, you'll be my captain for life. Don't worry, I'm different from the others. I have a conscience. Even if you're deposed, I won't hide from you, but I want to hide from you, Suzumiya Musashi complained inwardly. Zayan, listen to the captain's advice. Go away. I don't care where you go after you leave this door, but please don't interrupt my practice. Practicing all day. How boring. How about we look for something interesting together? Shut up. Suzumiya Musashi was afraid she would say something crazy, so he quickly interrupted her. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.